All right. So much to say, so much to cover. So this Parashat again is called Acharei Mot. Acharei means to come after. Mot is a derivative of met, which is also the word for death, after the death. And so it's interesting that this Parashat, well, let me ask, does anyone in the room know when this Parashat is also read? What holy day is, what appointed time is this portion also read? Is anybody aware of that time when this Parashat is also read? Not Passover. No, Passover, we read the story of Passover during Pesach.
Yom Kippur?
Yes, sir. So this Parashat is read during the feast of, the fast of Yom Kippur. Now, here's the thing about it. Look and listen to it. The atonement, the Day of Atonement's Torah portion that is read is a portion that is called after the death.
Mm.
So here's my question. What is the significance of this Parashat as it relates to atonement and death? It's really, it's layered, but this what ideas come to you all's mind?
Could you repeat that question again?
What is the significance? What is the implication even? What is the spiritual lesson accompanying the Torah, being that the Torah portion is called after the death? So what is the relationship of death to atonement? If atonement is effectuated after the death, if the instructions for Yom Kippur are contained in the Parashat called Acharei Mot, after the death, what is it about death and after some death that yields and works atonement? What is it about it?
Repentance?
Okay, that's a part of it. Yes, sir. That's a part of it. Imali Araya, yes, ma'am.
Well, I began to think about the emphasis on the blood.
Okay, there we go. You're getting it.
And yes, I was thinking about the emphasis of the blood. And it was something I heard because, I listen to different, sometimes I want to hear different perspectives.
Okay.
And a person from another sort of perspective was speaking on their temple, and that they used the color red instead of the shedding of the blood. But a comment was made about what it could be meaning shedding our own blood, like Paul said, we die daily. So I see it as two points, that blood must be shed for the remission of sin, but without the sacrifices, we must die, after the shedding, after the death, then there is life, a new life.
Correct. Very much so. Very much so. And I want to also go into something that had to take place before that, because there had to be blood shed in order for atonement to be effectuated. So the question is, before the temple was destroyed, because no more blood can be offered. Am I mistaken in saying that? Because there's no altar, according to Torah? Can there be offerings made? Can there be literal sacrifices and blood offered to Yah now? No, correct. So knowing Yah's wisdom, knowing Yah's omniscience, what took place that allowed for something to effectuate and to effectively render atonement for Israel? Now, here's the thing, once and for all, prior to the destruction of the temple in 70. What took place? Historically, what took place?
Oh, the temple was destroyed?
So that yielded atonement for Israel when the temple was destroyed.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Mm-mm.
So the question is, what took place that caused atonement to be brought forth for Israel once and for all? Listen to those three words there: once and four words, and for all, prior to the destruction of the temple.
The crucifixion of Mashiyach.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. So Yah's wisdom, Yah's foresight, Yah's prophetic consciousness knew that this was going to take place. And when you read the 70-week prophecy of Daniel, it tells you what would take place. It tells you exactly what would take place, that the Messiah will be cut off, but not for himself. Okay? Now, I want to bring this to our attention, and then we're going to get into some things. There are three things that had taken place from the year 30 prior to the destruction of the temple. Okay? It says in this article here, Talmudic evidence for the Messiah at 30 CE, Common Era. This is by Nicholas Fedorov. Okay? He says that in the centuries following the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem, which took place in 70 by the Romans, the Israelites began writing two versions of Israelite thought, or religious history and commentary, not or. So they wrote what's known as the Talmud, okay? One was written in Palestine and became known as the Jerusalem Talmud or Yerushalmi. The other was known or written in Babylon and became known as Bavli, but they're both called the Talmud, okay? We read in the Jerusalem Talmud, 40 years before the destruction of the temple, which leads us to the year 30, which leads us to the year Mashiyach was cut off. 40 years before the destruction of the temple, the western light went out on the menorah. The crimson thread, which they used to determine if atonement had taken place, remained crimson, and the lot for Yah always came up in the left hand. So this is two lots. They would draw a lot for Azazel. They would draw a lot for Yah. This is the black and the white stone of Urim and Thummim, okay? They would close the gates of the temple by night and get up in the morning and find them wide open. This is in the Jerusalem Talmud. The Babylonian Talmud, the other one, says our rabbis taught during the last 40 years before the destruction of the temple, the lot for Yah did not come up in the right hand, nor did the crimson colored strap become white, nor did the westernmost light shine, and the doors of the Hechal, the sanctuary or the temple, would open by themselves. What are these passages talking about? Since both Talmuds recount the same information, this indicates that the knowledge of these events was accepted by the widespread Israelite community. This was common knowledge to Israel. The teachers, the leaders, the rabbis, the priests, all accepted this version. Those in the diaspora, the Babylonian Talmud, those in the homeland, in Jerusalem, they both accepted these four events as this is common knowledge. And the chance of drawing this lot for Yah, it says, is 1 in approximately 5,479,548,800 to 1. The chances for 40 years of you getting the same lot is a 5.5 billion to 1 chance. But it happened every year after the death of the Messiah, after the death, Acharei mot. Are you all following me?
Yes, sir. We're here.
Say la. Yes, Iman, go ahead.
I don't know. Hearing this, it makes me think about how it seems so miraculous that the veil was rent in the temple, but now when we're reading this, that wouldn't have been, I mean, it was miraculous that the veil was rent, but then when you think about that happening along with all these other actions, these are things that we just never heard of. the changes that happened in the temple after the Messiah.
Mhm.
So that's just
But that lets you know that the old way of atonement being brought forth was no longer effective. The rituals, which were just the shadows, were not meant to always bring forth atonement. This was about obedience now. Now we're dealing with the fact that you have to remain faithful to the covenant. You have to now become perfected as a result of the Messiah demonstrating how to be perfectly obedient to Torah. Now, let me take this a step further. This is Talmudic, this is rabbinic knowledge of death of righteous atoning for the many. And this is something that one of the high priests said in the book of John. Let's see. I think this is, that's not it. This is the interesting part. Here it goes. So, the typical perception of traditional Judaism is that the Most High does not require or accept human sacrifice. The Messiah is a conquering king, not a dying priest. But the Talmud, right, interpretation says the death of a righteous man atones for the sins of many. It is only the blood of the righteous that provides atonement for sins, even as the death of the high priest atones for sin. Case in point. In his, I'm gonna form this in a question. When could a murderer, excuse me, not a murderer, when could someone who was guilty of manslaughter return back from the city of refuge? When could someone who accidentally killed somebody return from a city of refuge?
after the death of the family or the person that they murdered,
Not necessarily the death of the family member.
or the death of the I'm not getting it. Oh, I thought maybe it was like the direct kin of the
No,
person.
ma'am. It was the
Oh,
high
okay.
priest. It was the death. If the high priest had
I never
died,
knew that.
yes, ma'am. If the high, when the high priest dies, and the person who killed somebody, not homicide. What do they call that? If it's not homicide, they call it manslaughter, right? So if someone who was a manslaughterer outlived the high priest, when the high priest died, everything was cleared. The debt was cleared. They could come back to where they were from. They didn't have to live in a city of refuge anymore. Why? Because the death of that high priest now atoned for that individual. So this is why it says, even as the death of the high priest atones for sin, this lets us know that this is a correlation. Yah has always had this here. In fact, you see that with the first sin that had taken place in scripture, when Adam, as crazy as this may sound, when Adam ate from the tree of knowledge, he pretty much atoned for Hawa himself. He gave himself up for her. And so this is a very important understanding. In the Zohar, which is the most sacred book of the Jewish mystic, of Israelite mysticism, it states, as long as Israel dwelt in the Holy Land, the rituals and the sacrifices they performed in the temple removed all those diseases from the world. Now, the Messiah removes them from the children of the world. Okay?
I don't understand what you just said about Adam. And I don't understand that. You say that he basically did the atonement, but if his atonement would have counted for something, why were they driven from the
Israel?
garden?
Are you talking about the Messiah, or are you talking about the
No, you said Adam was like the atonement for his wife for what she had done.
So here's the thing. Where they were in Eden, was not the location that Yah really desired for them to be in. Mount Moriah has, and will always be the place that Yah's throne will be established. Eden was just like a little incubator. Eden was for them to get their feet rooted in the presence of Yah, so they can go back and then establish that. So the as crazy as it sounds, the exile from Eden opened the door back to Zion, because Eden is not Zion, although Zion is an Eden, but where they were located to the east of, not where Yah desired to plant them. Okay.
But how do we? I mean, how do we know that? Because I'm just asking questions now because I'm curious
Those are
about what
excellent
you're
questions.
saying. How
Those are
is
excellent
it?
questions.
You know, how is it that if that wasn't the place, if not just saying if, that they had both done what they were supposed to and say eat of the tree of life, would they
Okay.
have had to leave Eden, or would have Eden been extended?
Eden was in the beginning. Well, let me kind of go back a little more. The reason why the atonement took place is because what ended up happening with Adam and Hawa after they ate from the tree, though they were exiled, what ended up happening? What did Yah do for them?
I mean, he told them what they had to do. You
But what did
know,
Yah do for them? So let's think about
he
this.
clothed them.
He clothed them, and then he
clothed them.
re-entered into relationship with them. Correct? He reconciled their relationship. Correct? He provided atonement for them, because what Adam did was he did not break that union with his wife.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I get that because, you know, you kind of read a little bit about it in Numbers, the 30th chapter, about what he should have done.
right,
But
broken the vow, so to speak.
yeah, you know, but I'm so curious now of what you say. Maybe I just need to listen a little more, because I was thinking about even that 3 day when the Mashiyach died, because you said after death,
Right.
and I read something in the article that said that Genesis 1:11 was talking about what happened after the third day. And that's kind of like what happened with why did it take the 3 days for Yahshua? And it had some type of, I can't remember all of it, a correlation between the third day and the first Genesis 1:11, 12, and 13, I think that, or whatever happened for the third day after the death, after what you were saying. But to me, that's like all of it is, I'm really confused, and I'm going to shut up and listen.
No, it's fine. The questions are going to help you understand. And I want to make sure that I'm really painting this way. And I'm not saying that what he did was necessarily righteous. What I'm saying is, if you look at the motif of what Adam did, and that he sacrificed himself, it is messianic in principle. I'm not saying
you say what did he sacrifice?
His life.
How?
The day you eat from this, you shall surely die.
But
so
yeah,
to bring his wife back from death,
his disobedience. If he had never disobeyed, then
his bride would have been lost. His bride would have then therefore been lost.
And he might have got another one, but when she offered, he took. What was his sacrifice to Yahweh? Their eyes were not even open until after he had ate it. I did not just say I was gonna be quiet. Sorry,
No, it's fine. See, this is why we need this conversation to get this understand. This is great. I'm not, at all.
Could I say something?
These are easy to have. Please do. Yes, indeed.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom,
My name is
shalom.
Mama Sadik. I was just thinking about, just from the way y'all explaining it, it seemed like that Adam and Eve were the only two people there. Is that right?
Not necessarily.
Oh.
Not necessarily. But we're talking about just the isolated experience. But continue, please.
Okay. Because I had always knew that it was thousands and thousands of people
Right, the dust of the earth. Yes, sir.
that was in the garden, and that when the Most High put Adam to sleep, and he took the rib from him, and I said the rib is the government, and the woman is what caused. The woman was the government, and Adam was a nation of people. Now, when you, oh man, um, let me see. I don't want to go too much.
No, take your time. Take your time. I mean, this is what we're dealing with is the principle of atonement. So as relates to atonement, when we're looking at how the redemptive process took place and the reconciliation of the relationship of Adam and Hawa with Yah was brought forth, Adam, just like Mashiyach, had to descend in order to ascend.
Okay.
But continue, please do.
Okay. All right. Now, looking at Adam and Eve. Hold on. I would have to go back to the second chapter. Let me go back to the second chapter so I could see this as I'm talking. Uh, okay. Now, at first you had started off saying that that you said Moriah.
Mount
was-
Moriah, which is Mount Zion,
Yeah,
yes, sir.
Yeah, Mount Moriah. Now, Mount Moriah was inside of the garden. Is that correct?
No, sir. Moriah is west of the garden. He took them from Moriah and moved them to the east, to where the Euphrates and the Tigris and the Hickadel rivers merged.
Okay, so the garden covered the space of the Euphrates, the Tigris, and the Nile, and the White Nile.
Okay.
So all of that was considered the Garden of Eden. So now
Right.
to live in the Garden of Eden, one would have to be able to break down. It says, and the garden was eastward in Eden.
Right.
So this is a state of consciousness that the people were living in order to partake in that garden. So the garden started out as in the high place of the mind.
I would
So
subscribe to
all of
that.
this was spiritual. This was spiritual people, celestial beings that were living in the garden. So I tell people that it was not two people that this book is talking about. I said, now, the woman that was taken from the rib of Adam, that was the government at that time. Now, the government always come out of the people. So the people, then the government comes out of that. So our children will come from the people because they're coming out of us. So they said, now, Adam was put to sleep. So the government was, because the government had allowed sin to proliferate too long in the eyes of the Most High. So the Most High had to put them to sleep, just like he put us to sleep in this day and time. So our forefathers had sinned it. So now we had to bear the penalties of that sin. So in that day and time, the government was not doing what they were supposed to do. So this had nothing to do with two people. None whatsoever.
Literally, not literally, correct.
Say it again.
I said not literally. It is an allegory, I would say.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I just wanted to add that in there. That's all.
No, that's good. But what I'm using it for, when
Yeah.
you use the allegory at the same time, you still see the principle in motion, right? When you look
Okay.
at what the government is willing to do to sacrifice, to redeem their people, and to bring them from that state of darkness into a place of light, this is what Adam did, because after that took place, Adam and Hawa went through a period of repentance, of teshuvah, right? They repented 40 days, 40 nights. They were in the rivers of Jordan and the rivers of the Euphrates. Now, this is just the principle of what the story is saying. But when you're looking at the principles and you're extracting the lesson from it, you can see that there is just like what Mashiyach did with us in terms of descending to ascend, right? He had to come down in order to bring his people with him. And this is what Ephesians talks about, right? He had to go down in order to come up. And so these principles that we're discussing is about how can we achieve atonement as a people? What do we need to do? And sometimes we do see that there has to be sacrifices made, righteous sacrifices, to bring our people to a place of consciousness. Now, let's see. The whole point that was really being brought forth, though, let me just kind of bring back what it is that we're taking. And I want to thank you for your input.
Can I say something?
Moray Melchizedek. Yes, yes, indeed, Kim. Let me just kind of finish this thought, and now I'm open the mic to you.
Okay.
And just getting back to atonement, because atonement, many times, if not all the time, according to what we read in Torah, does require some form of shedding of blood. There has to be some form of death that takes place in order for life to bring forth. And we see this even in the form of agriculture. You can see this in nature. You can see this even in childbirth. There has to be a death of something in order for life to proliferate. And by death, it does not literally mean a physical separation from, in the sense that there is a life robbed. It means a transformation from one state to another state. So when a seed becomes the tree, the seed has to die. The seed has to transform its substance in order to become greater. And so that is, a part of the transformative realities that take place as relates to atonement. As relates to us, the old man, who we were, our former nature, our earthly nature, not the celestial, the terrestrial nature, as brother Melchizedek was speaking about, the celestial consciousness. Well, we have to die to terrestrial consciousness to become celestial beings.
Correct.
And there is atonement in that. Okay. So this is what we're having to really unfold. And to get to that meat, these are some of the basic principles that we have to understand initially to get to the higher principles of which the Torah speaks of. But yes, brother.
To kind of was going to what the elder Sharon was talking, and this was how it was kind of broke down to me, or how this thing was laid out. When it said that Adam, when she was saying how was it that he was able to make atonement for her, when he said that this is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh, for this reason man shall leave his mother and father and cleave to his wife. First of all, he couldn't break. Before then, he did not practice lying. He did not practice deceit. So when he made that statement, right, he was actually, he couldn't go back on his own word, right? He had to leave his father, which, right, was walking in the cool of the day, right, in the garden. He said he heard the father's footsteps. So that means he was walking in the garden. And so the only mother that he knew was the earth, right? And the only father that he knew was the Most High Yah. Because if you go over to what is it? It said that in Luke, where it says that Luke 3:38, it says, which was the sons of Enoch, which was the son of Seth, which was the son of Adam, which was the son of God. So the only father that he knew was the Most High Yah, right? And then it goes over there and it tells you that, you know, and Adam in First Titus 2:14, it said Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in the transgression. So here's the thing, Adam knew exactly what he was getting into. He could not really, and this is just I don't know if this is me just putting a poetic spin on it, but he just could not leave her out like that. You understand what I'm saying? Because initially
she was one flesh with her. That was the commitment he made to her.
That's exactly right, because now they bone of bone and flesh of flesh. He could not just toss her out like that, because then that would have made him a liar for one. You understand what I'm saying? And like I said,
covenant breaker.
A covenant breaker, and you know he didn't dwell. He didn't. What was that scripture where it said, "I know how you dealt treacherously with the wife of your youth," even though I know that that's making reference to the commandments and the Torah, right? But it also has a double meaning, you know, and how men, that's how the letter of divorcement came about, right? And things of that nature, because men, they were divorcing their wives for any reason, right? And so Moshe would give them a letter of divorcement. But Yahushua came back through and reiterated, he said, you know, Moses, because of the hardness of your heart, gave you that. But I declare unto you that in the beginning that was not so, which we know that he was a form of Adam, because he says, I am the first Adam. So here's the thing, if he was the first Adam, right, then guess what? She was already covered because he was the first Adam, which was the same Adam that crawled up on the cross. So that's the way it was kind of revealed to me, if that makes any sense.
Say loud.
Thank you.
So we have some more hands raised. We have now Imali Araya. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Ima?
Oh, Sleeker, I was muted. I was thinking about, in relation to what you were saying, as for instance, the shedding of blood and the redemption part. And when I was looking back at Genesis chapter 3 and verse 21, where Yah provided them with coats of skin and clothed them.
Right.
Well, I began to also think of, okay, now a sacrifice of an animal has been made. I think that you went over that when we first went over this. Now an animal, some blood has been shed for their indiscretion.
Correct.
The blood has been shed for their indiscretion, and now they have a coat of skins or covering to clothe them, because they didn't, you know, there was no need for a covering. And so I wanted to ask, where in just these couple of verses did the atonement part come? The part where they were in the river and that we see, is that in Yasher?
It's in a pseudepigraphical book. I believe it's the Life of Adam,
that book
the
of
Life of Adam and Eve, or the Book of Adam and Eve.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So, yes. So after they were out, like before verse chapter 4, that is where that happens.
Before the birth of Seth, yes. No, before the birth of Adam and Cain and Abel, yes. It would have taken place prior to that.
Okay.
They went through dire straits. You know what the history, or not what the narrative talks about, is the travails that they experienced coming into their mortality, into their descent, right? Into their descent into the terrestrial man, because they were celestial, as Elder Melchizedek was saying. They were celestial at a point in time. Their consciousness had elevated to the point where they were, you know, entirely Torah conscious. They were all they knew was Torah. All they knew was Yah's presence in them. All they knew was the kingdom dynamics and principles that they were emanating. And so to fall from that, right, if you really are technical, Adam and Hawa principally were the first Nephilim. They were the first fallen ones. And so when you're dealing with this idea of atonement and redemption, it's because of waywardness, of rebelliousness that has taken place. But to atone for that, there has to be some sort of setting of right through shedding of blood or a form of death. And that's the principle, that we have to understand.
So more,
At times the righteous will sacrifice themselves for the wicked. This is what Romans talks about. Like scarcely would someone good die for the wicked, but a righteous person. Yes, go ahead, Iman.
So more, I'm sorry. Could we almost think that them falling from their estate was a death?
Yes, undeniably.
Okay.
Undeniably, because you think about it, the scripture says that in the day that you eat of this tree, you will surely die.
Surely die.
Right? And what we don't understand, just like you spoke of with Moshe, Aki Kim, Moshe died that moment because he had no more access to the promised land. In that moment of his decision to rebel against the word of Yah, his death occurred. And so we know also Adam, what it says, Adam lived 938 years. That 938 years, is that a day with Yah? How long is a day with Yah? What does the scriptures tell us? A day with Yah is what?
1,000 years, and 1,000 years is
so Adam lived 938 years. Did he live a day with Yah?
No.
No. And so these are the things that we have to bear in mind as we're extracting these dynamics and these principles. And death, spiritual death, can happen in a moment. And then it's just like Cain and like Esau, who sought repentance. There is no repentance for individuals like that anymore. There remains no offering. There remains no atonement because you have spiritually cut yourself off from the throne, from Yah's presence.
Well, now's a question, sir. How do you know if you've done that? How do you know if, because Moshe was still allowed to live after he did that. Adam and Eve was still allowed to live, but how do you know if you have reason or have crossed that line? I know I was introduced to a word called apostasy years ago, right? And that's just flat out denial of the Holy Spirit. But how do you know that somewhere in your wickedness, right? Or say, if like me, I used to be out there in the world, you know what I mean? And there was a time when I came in and I was struggling, battling, trying to, keep my footing in this truth and in this way. And I would, fall back off into drinking and things like that. But how do I know, right, that I haven't crossed that line? How do I know that, hey, man, ain't no more blood for you? Listen, take the check to the bank, cash it, it's over. You understand what I'm saying? How do I know I haven't reached that level? How does a person really know that they have not crossed that line?
And that's a hard point to make. But what I do want to show you is something that Yah continually is going to remind us of, not that we should be trifling with it, right? I'm sorry, it's 34. But this tells us in Exodus 34, it says Yah in verse 6 passed before him. And so it's kind of related to that cloud, the covering of the cloud, right? Of the incense. Okay, because this is now Yah passing by and showing him his passing esteem. Yah is an El compassionate, showing favor, patient, great in kindness and truth, watching over kindness for thousands. Now here's where it's so beautiful. Forgiving crookedness, transgression, and sin, right? So when you look at these things, these are three different aspects of sin, like iniquity, I believe is crookedness, transgression is avarah, and sin is what they call chet, right? I forgot what crookedness is, the word for iniquity is, but iniquity is someone whose nature is bent on sinning. But Yah, it says, forgives this. It's a different type of atonement that has to be brought forth. Now we can read that in Leviticus, the first 5 chapters, particularly, I believe the 5th chapter lets us know about those high-handed sins and how those can be forgiven, but it's not going to be unpunished, right? This is the next line, but by no means leaving unpunished, visiting the crookedness of the fathers upon the children and the children's children to the 3rd and the 4th generation. Sometimes when we look at David, when we look at Melech David, the principle of that is that there are sins of the father that revert to the 3rd and 4th generation, because the Solomon's sins went to his 2 sons, Jeroboam and Rehoboam, and now the nation is split. And now the nation is in idolatry. Because this goes back to David's decision to commit adultery with Bathsheba. So in principle, when you're looking at the principle of these lessons, it's showing you how sin can pass down, right? Now, David, he may have atoned himself, but your next generation and your next of kin is going to have to work out some kinks. Because what we have to understand, eternal life is also in your bloodline as well. It's in your bloodline as well. The continuity of consciousness, at least.
May I say something to that 5th verse?
Yes, sir.
It's, and Yahweh descended in the cloud. Now, the cloud is very significant and very important.
Come on.
Inside the brain, you have the gray and white matter. Now, sound is traveling through the electromagnetic spectrum, which is the Holy Ghost. As that sound comes into the pinna is the ear, and it moves through that, and it hits the 3 bones right before the eardrum. Then it passes, that sound vibrates and passes into the auditory nerve, into the cochlea, into the middle of the brain, which is the 3 ventricles. That gives nourishment to the white part of the brain. So now the brain now is able to communicate with Yahweh. Out of that communication, the gray part of the brain now can make conscious thoughts of that communication. So this is what was happening in that 5th verse. When Yahweh said, I descended into the cloud inside of his mind. So my brother, when you was talking about how would you know, it would either be revealed to you, or a prophet or somebody would come and tell you because sometimes our vibration is so low that we are not able to pick up the current of information that is coming through the invisible skies. That is how the Most High will get his word to you, either through you or through somebody else will come and tell you. That's the way it's normally done.
That's prophetic. That's prophetic. And it's scientific. And it is physiologic. Because that's how all y'all operates. I appreciate your input.
Thank you.
Your visitation here today. Truly.
You're welcome.
And I know it's gonna be some very challenging information to deal with. It is very, very like graduate level. This is graduate level stuff. And I appreciate your words today, Elder Melchizedek, truly.
You're welcome, brother. Thank you.
I know that you probably have a lot of challenge dealing with people.
Well, Tasila can tell you that.
Well, they have a lot of challenges dealing with you more so. That's what it is.
I tell you. You know, my Abba would tell me, he say, son, now listen, I was getting ready to speak at Duke University, and he say, now, you can open up in there. You can just let it fly. Now, when you go into churches, you got to down it. You can't go there and say what you say in there. So I have been through it. I tell you, I almost got killed by some Israelites up north.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
They're
about
religious. They're religious minded. You know what I'm saying? They don't really see the science of the spirit.
Rather
So
be
what you're
Israelite
bringing,
in Christ with it.
they had got, they had surrounded me. It was about 50 brothers, And so they was asking me all these questions on Yeshua. And I'm just 19. I'm just like, okay, this is that. This means this. This means that. This means that. So then an elder walked up in the midst and he said, you say one more thing like that, I'm going to knock that. The so-and-so, I don't curse, never have. The so-and-so out of you. And so the spirit said, start backing up. And next thing I know, I was out of the crowd, bowed to the brothers and just walked off. And their teacher was the one told me to come to the meeting. So he put all them brothers down from what I heard. Yeah, he punished them. Took their positions from them because I was his guest. Yeah.
yeah. The
Oh,
science
man,
of spirit is so powerful. The science, that's something that we really strive to bring forth, with our fellowship and understand this dynamically and practically. You know what I'm saying? So even bringing the red part, that was brand new. I honestly say that. And I see it though. You saying that, I see it.
yes,
I
sir.
do understand that there is a lot of allegories to bring forth from that. So you saying that, yes, it is powerful, very profound. So I thank you in all humility. Okay, so let's get back on track. We are time strapped somewhat, focusing on this atoning work after the death, right? And so when we look at these things in Leviticus 16, y'all, can you all see the screen?
Okay.
Okay, hallelujah. Everybody all right? Let me check on everybody. Everybody good? I know y'all got some super meat today, boy. I got some manna. Everybody good? We are all right?
No,
Sharon?
no.
I want to make sure that we can all digest some of this information. It's a lot to chew. But let me clarify what these scriptures do speak about ultimately is your body. One of the secrets of the scriptures is to understand yourself as relates to being a member of this national kingdom that we're to bring forth. And it is a science to it. It is very intricate. The priesthood, what the priesthood knew and taught, what were based on where the people were able to comprehend their role in the body. They didn't withhold information. They just measured information. What we're having today, though, is people withholding information from the body, and the body is now starving for life.
Correct.
Okay. And so what you heard today from Elder Melchizedek is profound. It is very profound. It is a mystery. There are secrets that he spoke of. The way he broke down the ear and the gray and the white matter and the cloud, like those are secrets that people will probably almost more people than not will not receive that. But it's so simple because it's speaking about you and how we are to manifest this reality.
I talk to a lot of pastors, and I tell you, oh man, it is not easy. It is not easy, especially to go because a lot of Israelites, they say, "Why you be up in the churches?" I say, "Well, that's where the lost sheep of the house of Israel is at." So I stay up in the churches. So they say, "Man, they ain't teaching." I say, "I know what they teaching."
Right.
I say, "But somebody have to be able to go up in there." I said, "If I be on the street corners like y'all, I can't teach on the street corners because I just can't quote scripture. My brain don't work like that." I said, I was being trained from the age of, I wasn't being trained in the womb. So when I can remember as early as, I think I was about 3 or 4 years old. And my Ima, she would say, you see that flower hanging down from heaven? And I'm looking up at the sky. I don't see nothing. And she said, you can't see that? She said, it's so beautiful. And I said, I don't see nothing up there. She said, one day you will. you'll be able to see it like I see it. It is so beautiful. And she pointed to my temple and she said, one day you'll be able to see it right here.
Mm.
So that's the way they was training me to open up my pineal gland.
Mm.
So when I, got 12, 13, I would Creator start talking to me. And that's the way it happened. So when I be teaching, sometimes it's hard, man. It's hard to teach basics. It's hard. I would rather have someone else. I say, look, you teach the basics. I'm gonna teach university. I'm going into the universe. I was doing a lecture at Bennett College, and the lecture was going to be woman's place in the universe. So a lot of the young sisters, they was like, what you talking about our place in the universe? What is this? What is this? I said, look, you have to come to the class. You come to the class, you're going to hear the message. And all I did was break down Yod He Wahe. And when I broke that down, oh man, the sisters was like, this is off the chain.
Right. It's balance. It's balance.
Yes. Yes.
My goodness. That's the oneness. That's how the
But
oneness.
I like your style, my brother. I like your style. There are some things that you can show me, man.
Well, we both got some things to sit down and talk about from just
yeah,
this
man.
moment of time that we shared here, brother.
Where you at, I was going in that direction, and then I kind of detoured back out of it again. But there's another brother that I would like to put you in contact with. This brother is brilliant. If he can just stay off the crack cocaine. I mean, he's brilliant. Just brilliant. God, unbelievable.
Well, let's do this. Let's converse after class. I do want to stay on task. And
okay.
We can pick back up and move from there. Say live. So yeah, Ima Sharon. We're not gonna leave you out, Ima. We want to meet you where you are.
Don't worry about it, because I still believe the word of Yah speaks expressively. And
no doubt.
There are people that can have 10 degrees and still not know this word. Then there's people that can be just like down. I'm down and still understand the word. And I'm not it's not that I'm not open to different situations or what people are saying, but I still think if whatever is brought, whatever is out, I ought to be able to understand it. I'm supposed to be able to understand it or feel it in my spirit that this is something that I need to look into further. Because the scriptures say, come, we have to reason together.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I'm going to try, do all I can to shut up and listen, so that if there's something that will catch me where I can look into it further, I'm going to try to do that. But some of this, and I mean, I understand about the pineal gland and all that. I don't think I don't understand it, because I do. But I also know for us, some of us folk, that the word of Yah still speaks expressively. We are supposed to be able to understand. We should not question whether or not, or something should not be said that we should question where we at in Yah. And I'm talking about, I ain't talking about nobody else but myself. So I'm listening, and I'm gonna try to be quiet so I can learn.
Okay. So, Acharei Mot, after the death. So now we're dealing with the idea of atonement again, and we see here this cloud again, this cloud that we just learned of as well. But the cloud is also representative of people. Okay. The cloud I learned today is an entirely different thing, but it makes sense because this is a conglomeration of people as well. This is a gathering of people. with this consciousness, okay? And Yah, of course, is in the people. And this is what we need to understand. But the people who have Yah's presence within them are mostly hidden because they're not of this world. They don't operate according to the dictates and the principles of this system, which we know of as the world today, the order of the world. They're on an entirely different paradigm. We are, shall we say, on an entirely different paradigm because we are set apart. That's what that means. Holy is being set apart. So we're going to look different. We're going to be peculiar, right? Because number one, we're following the decrees and the laws of our king, which don't align us with the laws and the decrees of these worldly secular governments. They do not. And we need to understand our imperative in terms of manifesting the kingdom of heaven on earth. And like the elder was saying, this is a consciousness. And we've talked about that plenty of times in this particular fellowship. This is all about consciousness and awareness. So when we're looking at verse 4, this long linen shirt, right? The linen trousers, the linen girdle, the linen turban, the set apart garments, all these here, and being bathed in water, all these are pointing to deeper realities that cover the sins of murder, the long linen shirt. What do they put on someone typically in the Hebraic culture when someone was being buried? What did they wrap them in? What's the first thing that they placed them in?
Linen.
A
Linen.
long linen shirt.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay. So that is the covering of death. That's to atone for death, right? The linen trousers. Well, of course, trousers, those are sexual sins. This is attending for sexual sins. The girdle goes with that. The turban, of course, atones for sins of the thought, the sins of the mind. That's why the high priest wore the Kadosh La Yahuwah, the set apart to Yah mitre on his head. But the turban covered our minds. And that's what sets us apart. And it's all symbolic representation. But this is what the high priest dons because he bears the burden of the people. He represents the people before Yah, and he represents Yah before the people. But this is what the whole nation is to do before the world. One thing we need to stop doing as a people is stop being so iconoclastic. Stop being so, what's the word? Demagogic. We're demagogues. We look to one person as the whole, and it's the whole who's supposed to be the one person. All of us are supposed to have this consciousness. All of us, like we read in Numbers, when the 70 elders went on to prophesy, Moshe was like, all of Israel is supposed to prophesy. We are all supposed to walk in this light. And bathing the body in the water, we know, of course, those are the waters of Torah. And put them on. That's like it says in Ephesians 5, the husband should set apart his wife and cleanse her with the washing of the water of Torah. So when you're dealing with mikvah, when you're dealing with the immersion, the baptism, all you're dealing with really is immersing your mind in Torah.
Teach, brother. Teach. That's it.
That's where our bodies find themselves being cleansed. And sometimes we know we don't want to take baths in life. Sometimes some days Jesus, I don't want to take a bath. I want to shower today. I'm just going to chill today. But we need to shower every day. Every day. So this is a very important point that we need to take in. Any thoughts, any comments, any reflections, questions? Everybody good?
The one thing that kind of always was kind of stuck out to me that, even with all this was a bloody place, a whole lot of blood, right? But one thing that kind of struck me as kind of odd, even though we know that the Most High did not like commingling of people, commingling of races, or we noticed it wasn't races, but commingling of different tribes, of taking wives of strangers and husbands and stuff like that, and cultures and things. That's the one thing that Solomon always, he liked the girls, but they always, introduced him to different type of idolatry and stuff like that. But that one part when it was saying when it was mingling, but why mingling of the blood? It never showed. It never asked. I mean, how it never. It's not stated in here that they ever washed the altar off before, like the bull and the goat and the lamb. It seemed like all that blood. Did they ever clean it?
They did daily. They did daily.
They
Yes,
did daily.
So you had.
Can I say something to that?
Yes, sir.
Because it seemed like, I know he. Okay.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
He didn't. He doesn't like. He likes things to stay pure. We know that about the Most High. He does not like mixing of anything, right? He really doesn't like that. And I was just wondering, with all that blood, wouldn't that the blood, because at one time there was an offering that was taking place of a goat and a bull at the same time, wasn't it?
Right. They would offer some animals up at the same time.
And
Multiple animals.
Yeah, and so that blood would be mingled, would it not, on the altar?
Somewhat. The fires kind of do a different thing to it, though. You got to keep that in mind. So they slaughtered it in one place, and then they brought it to the altar. They didn't just slaughter it on the altar.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
They prepared it before they brought it to the altar for the offering. But even there, if I may, real quick, I'm gonna hand it to you, Elder Melchizedek. The one thing you have to understand is that there were hours of offerings. So between those hours, they would also have attendants. So I was going to say there's the Leviim, the priesthood, the Levites, and then you have the Kohanim. So there are different functions of the priesthood that took place. There were people who just attended to the altar and cleansed the altar after every hour of sacrifice, because you have, again, the Acharei, you have the Mincha, and you have the Arvit. So you have the morning, afternoon, and evening prayers. But between those offering times is when the priesthood would come and clean it. The Levites would come and clean it. So the Kohanim could officiate. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
So it wasn't like they just put blood on top of blood on top of blood on top of blood. No, it was even miracles that they would say that the altar was so clean that there were no insects, there were no flies that even came to the altar, because they were so sanitary in their practices. But I go ahead, Elder Melchizedek.
Okay. All right.
Okay, when you was talking about the blood, like this just come to me. It's important that the kingdom of Yah is an idea. It's an idea. It is dealing with a state. Now, when you are your lineage, let me go here first. Okay, like with Passover. When I do Passover, it is totally different from the average Israelites do Passover. Now, what I have, when people come in, I say, I start on the 10th day. I don't start on the 15th day. Then I teach them about the 10th day. Then we come back for Passover on the 15th day. Now, on the 15th day, when they come in, each person drinks at least 1 ounce to 2 ounces of hyssop. They do not know why I'm asking them to drink the hyssop. Well, the hyssop is in the scriptures. Okay? So now, in ancient times, our people would drink hyssop because hyssop was a diaphoretic herb. Now, the diaphoretic means what it does is that it causes the muscles to contract. So now, when the muscles contract, now inside the body, you have 613 muscles. So we have 613 laws. So now the muscles is contracting. So our people would drink this in ancient times to go high in their spiritual consciousness, because now the Most High have us to meet on the full moon. So now the full moon is just like whenever the full moon is, people got plenty of energy. People are ready. They're at an all-time high. So the Most High wants to come in now. and make spiritual love to his people.
Come on.
So this is what's happening. So basically, it's like once I go into that, then I come from that, I take that right into the lamb. Now, the people is the lamb. So now we're going to slay that wickedness in you. So you're going to take the spirit now of this lamb. So the lamb is going to follow the king, or he's going to follow that shepherd. So now, wherever the shepherd goes, the lamb's going to follow. So now you are that lamb. So now the Most High is telling us to come together at this time. So now he wants to birth in us a seed. He wants to birth in us an idea. So now we can live by that. So now then we go right into the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Since the season was here, I just felt this would be right on time.
Yes,
So
sir.
now that blood is dealing with the idea. So now the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Okay, it takes 24 hours for the seed, once the man shoots the sperm into the uterus. Now, what I have a big giant picture of the uterus, like on an 8x4 board. So people are coming back for that, and they're wondering, why would he draw a woman's vagina? Because they don't know where I'm going with this. Because I'm showing them where the idea come from. I was taught ancient Hebraic thought. So when I teach, I'm teaching ancient Hebraic thought. So that is the way I'm going. So there was no lamb we killing. No. You are the lamb. You are the lamb. So now the unleavened bread is it's like a greediness for something sweet. So now you are supposed to be taking on the character of a sweet behavior. That's what the feast of unleavened bread is. So now it's time for you to discipline yourself, because now you are impregnated. So you was impregnated on the 5th day, on the 15th day. So now within 24 hours, that sperm is going to hit that egg. When that sperm hit that egg, now it's going to travel down the fallopian tube. It's going to take 2 to 6 days. So now that's 6 days coming on down. So now in the middle of that sperm, it's going to take on a characteristics. Now it's going to start, it's like if you see a rubber band and you just say a circle here, a circle there, a circle there, a circle there, a circle there. It's like a bracelet going all the way around. Now inside the middle of that is the Holy Spirit. That's the idea that's being impregnated. So now a nation is being born. So now we're dealing with the first fruit. So all this is taking place. It's even more than that, but that's just where I wanted to go, just to show you it's an idea. So when you go into another nation, they don't have that idea. So now you're taking on the idea of that nation, mixing it with your seed. That's why I tell the brothers, man, you got to stay with the sisters, man, because the idea is already in them. I said in the garden, what did we eat? We ate everything with a seed. So basically in the garden, we were fruitarians. We were fruitarians. What have seeds in it? Fruit. Vegetables was for the animals. So I say we have to go back to that. This is the pathway we're traveling now. We're just starting to wake up. So everybody don't wake up at the same time. We all wake up at different parts of the time, different parts of the year, different parts of years. Some people woke up 20 years ago. Some just waking up today. So it's the idea that's in the bloodstream, and that's passing on through generation to generation to generation. That's what I wanted to say on that.
Hallelujah. That's the eternal life.
Yes, sir.
That's the eternal life. Yes, indeed. And so the blood, getting back to the blood though, the blood and the commingling, there's always, what can we say to that? And when you're dealing with Yah, you have to understand Yah is cleansed. Yah is clean. Yah is pure, right? So there's going to always be purity when dealing with the altar. And this is all symbolic of, just like the elder was saying, you're dealing with thoughts, you're dealing with words, you're dealing with actions, you're dealing with energy. And so as without, or as within, so without. What I'm saying is there's a correspondence, there is a relationship that Yah is showing us on how the temple was attended to that should be demonstrated in our own personal lives. Right? So this is like, just when he's talking about copulation, the sexual intercourse. What does the Torah command us to do after we have sexual intercourse? What does it tell us to do?
Wash ourselves.
To wash ourselves, to cleanse ourselves. But when you do that physically, there should also be a spiritual component that goes with that. What is the spiritual equivalent to that? Because if you think about it, sexual intercourse is the most sacred thing that we can experience with one another. Because we're creating another reproduction of Yah's image, and not literal image, but Yah's perception and Yah's intelligence on earth. And so when we're dealing with that, there should be prayer, there should be study. We should sanctify those times and those moments with one another. And then we would not see the amount of broken homes. We wouldn't see, as you read in Leviticus 18, the illicit sexual relations that are taking place between family members. Because sex has now just become more animalistic and purely gratifying, as opposed to the sacred purpose that it truly has. In pleasure, because we don't understand pleasure as human beings. We understand pleasure as animals. We don't even understand pleasure as human beings, let alone as the Elohim that we're supposed to be, as the children of Elohim we're supposed to be. We don't understand pleasure. And all of this is to get us to Eden, to get us to the state of pleasure, true pleasure though. And that's why Eden was, just like he was saying, it is an idea. Eden was an idea. It doesn't matter where they were physically. It did not matter in that sense, but he set them apart to incubate, to create this consciousness, to then go and to perforate the whole world or penetrate the whole world with this seed, impregnate the world with this seed of consciousness. And we have to understand, first and foremost, how to cover ourselves in Yah's presence, which is what atonement is all about. When you're dealing with Yom Kippur, the word Kippur is the same word that is related to the lid of the Ark of Atonement, the Kippuret, the covering of the Ark.
Teach.
And so when we're dealing with Yom Kippur, we're dealing with getting back under the covering of the covenant. And so now we're dealing with these two goats, one for Yah, one for Azazel. The question is this first. We know, well, I'm gonna come back to you, Elder Melchizedek, because I want to hear something that you talked about, this tetragrammaton. But my question is, who is Azazel and why was the goat offered to him? Can someone tell me? Who is Azazel and why was the goat offered to Azazel?
Got me on that one.
Anybody?
Well, some have said that Azazel was like the adversary, but I began to think of, so is Azazel the one that's being let out into the wilderness?
That's the goat. That's the scapegoat. Yeah.
Mhm. So I'm thinking about that's the lower, well, that is the lower state of being, so to speak. It's the lower self is being loaded onto this goat and sent away out of the camp, so to speak. The sinfulness, the lower self,
Okay.
the lower, actions and behaviors of everyone is being sent out of the camp, loaded onto this animal.
Good.
But
Good.
that's kind of how I.
Good. That is a part of it. Yes, indeed. Any other ideas? Any other? So let's look at the book of Enoch, the 8th chapter. It says, and Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them in bracelets and ornaments and uses of antimony and the beautifying of the eyelids and all kinds of costly stones and all coloring tinctures. Okay. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray and became corrupt in all their ways. So this is contextualizing Azazel, okay? But this is what goes on to say about Azazel. Here it is. Thou hast seen, thou hast made all things. This is a prayer of who made this prayer? The 4 archangels, Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel. But going on to let me go to verse 4. And they said to the master of the ages, Yah Sevaot, right? Well, this is, the master of masters, Elohim of Elohim, King of kings. The throne of your esteem stands unto all the generations of the ages. And your name, holy and glorious and blessed unto all the ages. Thou hast made all things, and power over all things hast thou. And all things are naked and open in thy sight. And thou seest all things, and nothing can hide itself from thee. Thou seest what Azazel hath done, and hath taught all unrighteousness on earth, and revealed the eternal secrets which were preserved in heaven, which men were striving to learn. Right? So you see what Azazel did there. Semjaza, one of his partners, also did the same thing, or similar things. But let's move on, because it shows a little more about Azazel. Verse 7. Let's go to verse, let me see, go to verse 3. So, and now instruct him, speaking of Enoch, or Noah, excuse me, go to Noah, instruct him that he may escape and his seed may be preserved for all the generations of the world. And again, Yah said to Raphael, bind Azazel hand and foot and cast him into the darkness. So what this goat is doing is going and taking all of the sins of the nation and casting them into the darkness that Yah said nothing about in the beginning, because it does not exist in Yah's reality. Yah only saw light and said, this is good, right? Tov. Yah saw the light and said, the light is Tov, it is good. Bind Azazel hand and foot and cast him into the darkness, and make an opening in the desert or the wilderness, which is where he sent into it, right? Which is in Dudael, and cast him therein, and place upon him rough and jagged rocks, and cover him with darkness, and let him abide there forever, and cover his face that he may not see light. And on the day of the great judgment, this is Yom Kippur, he shall be cast into the fire, and heal the earth which the angels have corrupted, and proclaim the healing of the earth, that they may heal the plague, and that all the children of men may not perish through all the secret things that the watchers have disclosed and have taught their sons. Here's the key verse. And the whole earth has been corrupted through the works that were taught by Azazel. To him ascribe all sin. This is why the scapegoat is sent to him. I'm giving it back to you. This is what you brought on earth. Now I'm returning to sender. So when that scapegoat is sent to Azazel, it is representative of taking the sins of man away and returning them to its source. And Azazel means the one who wanders, the goat that wanders. It's the goat that just wanders. But if you think about it, what does Satan say when he approaches, and we talked about this last week, when he approaches Yah with the sons of Elohim? What does Satan say? From where do you come, Satan?
To and
Up
fro.
and down. To and
To and
fro.
fro.
That's
Wander.
that cross. That's that cross.
That's the cross. Yes, it is. Up and down, to and fro. Yes, that's the sign of the cross, undeniably.
Symbol of death.
Yes, sir.
Crucifixion.
Whoa, what you say? Hold on a minute. Hey, we
Ah!
Hold
Make-
on.
Brother Kim,
Yeah.
do show on your body, up and down, to and fro. Do it on your body, up and down, to and fro. How would you do it?
Up and down, from shoulder, across. Oh my God, what were you saying? Hey, yeah. Oh, I'm
That's the crucifixion.
Yes,
up
sir.
and down, to and fro. The
Yes,
sign,
sir.
the symbol of death. Oh my
But that,
God.
but see, that's what the Catholic Church has taught the world to do. So
Yes,
they're
they
marking
have.
themselves with the beast marks. They're putting the marks of the beast on themselves.
Yes, sir.
And then on your forehead with black ashes.
Yep. That too.
And see, our people, I tell
That's
people,
right.
I was just telling a lady, because I always see her with a cross on. And we done become real close. So I always try to give her a little bit, here and there. And I told her, I said, you know what, I got to tell you something. I say, but please don't take this person. Please don't take this person. I say, the cross that you wear is a symbol of death. And she looked at me like I was Satan. And I said, just think about it all day. Think about it all day. And I'm going to call you back tonight and we're going to talk about it. And then I sent her some stuff and she was reading it. And she was like, oh my God. Oh my God. I say, look, this is old stuff. This was before I was even born. Okay. I say, now what you should be wearing is the mark of Yah. The mark of Yah is the last alphabet in the Hebraic tongue, which is the Tav. I said the Tav is in the shape of an X, but it's not an X, it's a Tav. I said it represents the mark. I was doing an lecture in 2017 when I spoke at about 6-7 churches up in North Carolina. And I had called one of the pastors and I say, I said, what y'all doing for the eclipse? And he said, oh man, we're gonna have something great. And I said, great. And he said, what? I said, that's bad. I said, an eclipse, brother, you don't want an eclipse to come across your nation. I said, that's bad.
That's ominous.
He said, what you doing? I think that was a Thursday I was working. And he said, no, that was a Tuesday. And he said, what you doing Thursday? I said, nothing. He said, come to the church and teach. So I came and I started breaking the whole thing down, dealing with the eclipse. I said, look, the eclipse is coming from the west and it's heading towards the east. I said, but it's moving on a 33rd degree angle.
Come on, man.
I said, now it's coming right over the northern part of Oregon. And I say, I said, now the next one gonna come, it's gonna be 7 years from now. I said, that's gonna be 2024, which is gonna be 7 years from 2017. I say 7 represents perfection or completion.
Yep, judgment.
I said, America is at completion, not perfection.
Yep.
I said, it's coming to that. I said, this is the age that we're going in now. It's a lot of things happening. I say some things gonna pop off in 2020, some things gonna pop off in 2022, because I'll be looking at the signs, I'll be reading the heavens.
We're gonna wrap up in 24.
Yes. So I said, now when this next one comes, it's going to come from Mexico. It's coming in from Mexico, and it's going to cross right over at the tip of Illinois, and then it's going to go into Maine up in Canada. That's making an X across America. That's the mark of Yah. He's finished with this nation. So this nation is getting ready to fall. That is what is getting ready to take place. So I say, sister, you got to wear the X, and then you put a circle around that, which is the ninth alphabet in the Hebraic language.
Samech.
Yes. I say you put that around it. I say now you in oneness with the book. I say, but you don't want the cross. The cross is not our thing. That's not our thing.
Right.
Yes. So go ahead, brother. I get excited,
That's
man.
powerful.
You know, I get excited, man.
As we should. But this all goes back to Azazel, okay? These are the secrets of iniquity, the mysteries of iniquity that have been at work for millennia, that people are just blind to and they don't know. But it speaks of that in Thessalonians, 2 Thessalonians 3. The mystery of iniquity has been at work.
Yes.
Right? And so when we're dealing with this, we have to be able to rightfully divide the word of truth and understand what Yah is instructing us to do so that we're not marked by the beast. And we give everything back to the beast that belongs to the beast. That's like when Yahushua was told, why don't you pay taxes to Caesar? He's like, give me a coin. Give me a denarii then. And whose image is on this coin? It's Caesar. Well, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. But give to Elohim what belongs to Elohim.
Absolutely.
And the more we can understand we are Yah's and we are Elohim ourselves in Yah, we don't give anything to Caesar because Caesar is not our king.
That's right.
And we have to understand this. If we are about this kingdom, we need to understand what that means. Okay. And we have a huge undertaking to unfold. And it's life or death. It really is. And what comes with it is the authority that Yah gives us. And this is what I want you to understand, Imam Sharon, particularly. When you understand your body and the technology that your body is, and how the spirit, the energy that runs through your body can be activated and used to empower you to bring forth prophetic consciousness and prophetic reality in prophetic time, that's when everything unlocks. That's when we have the keys to the kingdom. That's when you have the power to loose and bind and speak forth into existence realities that Yah has given us.
Yes. Yes.
And so I'm humbled by this brother's presence here today. And it's going to take some time for us to get to this I won't say plateau, this elevation. There's no plateau to it. There's no plateau.
There you go.
To get to this elevation, it's going to take a lot. And I will say this, and it's something that I've had to do myself. It's going to take not only study, but it's going to also take meditation. And I know, Imam Sharon, you've been meditating. I know you have. But this is where everything is going to truly unlock. And I'm saying this to myself as well, because I need to get back on my meditative discipline more consistently. Because that's where everything is going to be unlocked. Because we're not, again, our weapons in this war that we are in are not carnal. They're not carnal, right? But we got to understand the power that Yah has given. Yes, Brother Kim, I did see your hand. Yes, sir.
Oh, that was somebody else? They wanted to say something?
Brother Kim did raise his hand for a moment, and I'm going to come back to you. Yes, sir.
I'm kind of going back on this right here, but I'm going to have to chew on this meat a little bit longer. Boy, I tell you, busted my dome with that one. But I was thinking about something that you had said a while ago about bringing that consciousness, right, through meditation, to bring certain things into fruition, to bring them into play, right?
Yes, sir.
Something happened at work, and this is on a small level, right? But it's just giving confirmation to something that you had said. I remember years ago, I used to tell folks, this was a while back, I used to tell people I could drive anything that got wheels, right? And I used to say that all the time. And I always wanted to drive, heavy equipment. And I would say that all the time and never climbed up in nothing, right? And I had an opportunity. The Most High, right, gave me an opportunity because I would say that so much and desired it in consciousness. I think I actually thought these things into reality. I went to work for a company called Murphy Equipment and Tractor Line and Equipment, where I drove 650 and 1050K bulldozers. I know a lot of y'all don't know what those are, but those are real big machines, and excavators and things like that. And I was able to get trained on these things. And so just thinking and saying these things, I actually spoke these things into existence. So when you were saying that and even meditating on it, and the meditating, I mean, it was desiring this, a deep desire to do this. It actually came.
Expectancy.
Yeah, so that was just to give a little, a little validity to what you were saying, because that actually happened in my life.
Hold on. Elder Melchizedek, yes, sir.
Okay, when you was talking about the altar, this is what, to open their minds, I would like to add this to that. Now, when you're dealing with the altar, the Ark of the Covenant. Now, the Ark of the Covenant, you got the two cherubims that's sitting on top of the ark. Then you have the mercy seat that's right there. Now, inside the Ark of the Covenant, you have the two tablets of law.
Yes.
Now, the Ark of the Covenant, this is ancient thing. This is the key. This will begin to unlock a lot of things inside your mind. The Ark of the Covenant. Let's deal with it. You got the cherubims. You got two cherubims, one on the right and one on the left. The cherubims are the the right and the left cerebral hemisphere. Now, the pillar that sits, the pillar is the pineal gland. The two tablets inside the ark is the pituitary gland that sits right above the roof of the mouth. So when you speak truth. So now, the Most High deals with you inside the mind. So the mind is the ark of the covenant. This is ancient Hebrew thought. I was speaking at a man, what kind of church was that? This is how I got to Duke University. I was speaking at a Unitarian church in Durham, North Carolina. And about 1% of the audience was Black. 99% was white. And there was a man walked up to me after, and I did a lecture on the Lord's Prayer. Now, I shouldn't have did that lecture, but I did it. And I'm kind of glad I did, because I got into Duke University to speak. And so on the Lord's Prayer that you say every night, most of us, I gave a lecture on that. It took me 2 hours to deliver that message. And there was a man walked up to me and said, "Excuse me, sir." He said, "I've never heard nothing like that." He said, "I did not know the Lord's Prayer was that much information that's inside of that." I say, well, when Yeshua taught that to his disciples, this was hidden ancient knowledge. Certain people among our people knew when they read that, they knew what that represented. When they said that, they knew what that represented. So he had to give it to the disciples, because the disciples have to carry forth the information unto the people. So they have to know this code. And once you got this code, this could take you into outer space. And that is how I got into Duke University to be able to speak when I gave a lecture on that. Because normally I don't teach other people that besides my people, but I did it that day.
That's rich. That's rich. And it's so interesting, because we know the kingdom won't be inherited by flesh and blood, but at the same time, we do need to know the spirits that we're dealing with. So I get what you're saying 100%. For expeditious matters and reasons, we're going to go to the words of our master. We're going to look at the words of Yehoshua. We got about 35 minutes left. I don't want to, overreach everything, even though we started a little late. But I want to go to these words because what we're dealing with again is cleanliness. We're dealing with atonement. We're dealing with being covered. But here's the question: what are we to be covered in? What does Yah desire for us to be covered in? And what does Yah desire for us to be covered? Let me form the question. You say what now?
Blood.
Which represents what?
I mean,
Come on, think.
what does he require us to be covered?
What does blood represent, though?
Salvation.
And salvation gives us access to
the kingdom.
Okay. And in the kingdom, you will have an abundant amount of what?
Let the Christians tell you a bunch of gold on the street.
Yeah. It's more substantial than the gold, though.
Yes, sir.
I know, teacher. I just got stuck.
Priscilla, answer that question.
I would say that the blood is life.
Undeniably.
Come on.
Undeniably.
And then
there you go.
So that you can have an everlasting life.
Exactly. And here's the question, and I'm gonna ask the question properly. Who is life?
We are.
Who is life?
Israel.
Before that.
The commandments, the Torah.
Which leads back to.
Wait a minute now.
It connects though, because the Torah comes from somewhere. The Torah is just not self-existing itself.
It leads us back to Yah.
Exactly.
Come on.
So we are to be covered with the Shekinah. We're supposed to be covered in Yah's presence. Okay? So when we understand all atonement is doing is covering us back in Yah's presence, we will be functioning on earth as Yah. And this is what Yah desires of us to manifest on earth. And this is what he says there. As you were talking about the Master's Prayer, your will be done on earth, your will be done, your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. That's for us to manifest.
Mm-hmm.
That's our imperative. That's our covenant. That's the agreement that we made with Yah. But we can't do that in and of ourselves. The only way we can do that is in Yah and his Mashiyach. That's the only way we can do it. So we have a lot to actually manifest, a whole bunch. Ima, I see your hand.
Okay, what keeps coming in my mind, and I don't, I can't say I really know why, but my mind keeps going back to that covering that we talked about before of Adam and Kawa, of the covering with the pelt or the skin of the animal. Now, how is that? Can I relate that to this the garment that is covering that the priest must put on, or is that a covering kind of a punishment that they had on? Do you see what I'm asking?
Yes. It's both. It's both. Reflection of it, because it shows that they had fallen. It shows that they had descended into a lower state, and that they now needed a covering for themselves to get back into the favor of Yah.
So now you've descended from, I see now. You've just about gotten with the animals, so to speak, because now you're out of your like you were saying, their heavenly estate.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So that requires, and that's the principle of it all. Because when you look at that, we can't come before Yah as ourselves. We have to come before Yah in the covering that He has provided for us. So it's deep because the first and last offerings that were made in Scripture were from the Most High. The first one, of course, was with Adam and Hawa. Some said it was an actual serpent skin. Some say it was lamb skin. Some say it was other animal skins, like but whatever it was, nonetheless, there was a shedding of blood that had taken place that provided them with the leather coverings, whatever they were. And whatever they were, it was also said that those skins were passed down ultimately to Nimrod, who actually used them to gain power. But they were also what Yaakov, Jacob, used to disguise himself as Esau. And this is just some oral tradition that comes with our ancestors. Nonetheless, the offering that was made first was by Yah. The offering that was made last was by Yah with his son. And that goes back to what Abraham was told when he said, or when he told Isaac, where's the lamb, Abba? Like, we got the wood, we got the knife, we got the fire. Where's the lamb? He said, Yah will provide the lamb, my son, right? So Yah set up everything for divine orchestration to take place, where we have to just know what Yah's plan of salvation is and be faithful to the instructions that He's provided for us. I'm not saying just believe, because what has happened to us is we have been left believing in superstitions without knowing the substance of what and the evidence of what this covenant is about. And so, we have a lot of work to undergo. And this is what the master is really talking about in this particular chapter of Matthew 15. And the focus verse, I would say, is verse 3. This is the conundrum that we are now in today. Yahushua, in responding to the leaders, the clergy of his day, right? You're dealing with the teachers, the sages, the lawyers, and these are the lawyers. The scribes are more considered like lawyers. The Pharisees are like the professors, right? But this is all what you would consider the bourgeois and the elites of the day.
Yep.
Okay. And so in dealing with him and like this common dude who got all this information and all this power, where are you getting it from? Now they're questioning him. Why are you transgressing the tradition of the elders? Why are you transgressing these policies that we've put in place? Notice what I used in terms of legal terms, legalese. Why are you transgressing these policies? Not the law. Why are you transgressing these policies? But he said, why do you transgress the law, the commands of Elohim, because of your policies? And this is the whole conundrum that we are in today. But what has happened is they want to take the term legalism, which is suggestive more so of following policy and not law, legalese, right? Because everything legal is not necessarily lawful.
That's right.
When you're dealing with law, something can be legal. Let's say enslavement.
Maritime.
You can make that legal, but in terms of human rights, you're violating human law. You're violating natural law in that form of enslavement, in chattel enslavement.
That's what
it can be legal. It's perfectly legal, but it's naturally unlawful. Especially if it's involuntary. Like, I didn't volunteer for this. I didn't do anything for me to warrant this. Now, in a sense, our ancestors did because of the violation of the covenant, but you exceeded the just due for that particular punishment. You exceeded the bounds for that. You became inhumane. And now that cross that Elder Melchizedek spoke about, 7 years ago and 5 years ago, and then coming up 2 years, 24, it's complete. Your judgment is complete. I would have healed Babylon, but it's too late.
They know this. And just like on, February the 22nd, the portal opened. So it's like the Creator was saying, open up ye gates. Who is the King of glory? When the gate opened, February the 22nd. So now we can make direct his time. All we have to do is just elevate and go on back into the fifth dimension and go higher.
Let it be so.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let me say this here. My Abba used to tell me about this song back in the 60s. And he said, the song go like this. I think, some of the elders would probably know this. When the moon is in the seventh house, then Jupiter aligned with Mars. There'll be peace on this earth. And that will be the dawning of the age of Aquarium. And that was made by a group called the Fifth Dimension back in 68, 69. That started 2012, December the 21st. The moon was in the seventh house. This was big time teaching that year there. The moon was in the seventh house. Jupiter aligned with Mars. Oh man, powerful, powerful. All the ancient calendars came to an end. So they knew. Now, right at that time, President Barack Obama, he put out what you call that when they signed that, what's the name of that?
Executive order?
Executive order. What's the executive order? What's it? 13. I think it's 13603. 13603. Anytime y'all get time, go read that. Man, blow your mind. Or if I think they done changed some of it on there since that time. So they done kind of dumbed it down a little bit, but that thing is deep. I'm talking about deep, deep. Go on YouTube, punch in Dick Gregory talking about 13603, and it'll pop up.
13603?
Yeah, 13603. Executive Order 13603, Dick Gregory. He's going to give you some of it because they're doing an interview with him. And he was speaking on that. And man, that's going to make you want to go and read it because it's deep. Everything that they're doing right now is in that policy. And he added more to it before he came out of office. See, my Abba told me back in 97 that they found the man that's going to be a Black president. He told me that in 97. I say, yeah? He said, yeah, they already working with him right now. But see, he's cousins to Bush. He's cousins to Dick Cheney. He's cousins to all of them guys. He was being groomed.
Right. Right. Yep. His mama.
Oh, yeah. Her side of the family is connected to about 16, 17, 18 presidents.
And royal bloodline, and England, English royalty, British
There you
royalty.
go. There you go. All of them, all the presidents line up with the king that was sitting on the throne back in the 1300s? Yeah, 1300s or the 1200s. Yeah, all of them, direct descendants. All the presidents and the vice presidents.
Yes, sir. Yes,
so
sir.
We're getting ready to be free, but we got to go through this.
We already free. We just got to walk in it, man. That's the reality of it. The Yahushua has defeated Satan. The works of the devil are no more. The only power they have is what we give to them. So we just got to claim what's rightfully ours and walk in it.
Teach. Yes, sir. Is Tassila still on the line?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Is Tassila still on the line?
I believe so. I saw her just a while ago. Did she invite you?
Yeah, she was the one that told me about y'all.
Hallelujah. I told our Rabbi, Ima Tassila. Hallelujah. I
That's my
kind of
best.
connected it. I started making the connection just a short moment ago. I was like, I think Imatusila invited Elder Melchizedek. Hold on.
That's my
I
buddy.
hear the accent and everything, so I get it.
Yeah, that's my buddy.
Yes, sir. Beautiful, beautiful. So when we're dealing with this, coming back to these commandments, dealing back with the kingdom, because this is all dealing with kingdom paradigms, right? So when we understand the paradigm of which we are to be functioning, in which we are to be functioning, you know, this is where our authority comes from. But our authority is only as effective as our faithfulness to the words of our King. And that is more dealing with fidelity, our allegiance and our loyalty, right? This is why the first commandment is so important, right? You should have no other Elohim before Yah. And at times what happens is we yield to ourselves. We worship ourselves more than we worship Yah. We can worship systems, government, other governmental entities more than we worship Yah, because we'll put our trust in those things more than we'll put our trust in Yah's word. And this is where we have to diffuse that line of thought. But this is why, again, going back to the cleansing, going back to the immersion, going back to even Leviticus, I believe it's 16, where it talks about in a man who, 17. Let's go to 17 real quick. This is what Yah commands us to do. The man who lives by them, is that 17 or 18? I think it's 18. Is it 18?
Which chapter are you talking about?
It says that the man who does these things, about like, okay, here it is. You shall guard my laws and my right rulings, which a man does and lives by them, right? So when we're dealing with this here, you're dealing with the full immersion, right? You're dealing with the entire immersion. If you're doing and living according to Torah, you have become Torah. You have supped with Torah or on Torah. You have metabolized Torah. And this is what eating that body, that bread is all about. Going back to Pesach, right? Going back to Matzot, Chag Matzot, the unleavened bread. And we talked about this briefly, I believe. I know I spoke with it with Brother Kim. The more we eat the unleavened bread, the more we become like our master, because that represents his body. That's why the mitzvah of eating unleavened bread is so important, because we're taking on now the characteristics. They call them the midot in Hebrew, the righteous characteristics, the character traits of the Most High that we read of in Exodus 34. What are the characteristics? Compassionate, showing favor, patient, great in kindness and truth, watching over kindness for thousands, and being merciful and forgiving. These are the characteristics that we should be manifesting. And we should be manifesting the characteristics of the Tetragrammaton.
Yes,
and
sir.
so with that, I want to ask you this question, and we're going to wrap up soon, because I want to go back to Leviticus 16, and I was going to bring this up. We talked about who Azazel is, okay? And we talked about the offerings of the two lots, one for Yah, one for Azazel. One goat went to Yah and was offered up. Another goat was left alive and went to Azazel. And that's what you brought up earlier, Brother Kim, dealing with Yahushua, meaning the lot for Yah, and Bar-Abba, or Barabbas, they call him, Bar-Abba, the son of the father, being released.
Yes, sir.
Okay? But my question for you, Elder Melchizedek, the Tetragrammaton. As you were talking to the sisters about the Tetragrammaton, can you just give us a synopsis of what the Tetragrammaton, Yad-He-Wah-He, what that represents, so that we can understand when we're dealing with Yah's presence, when we're dealing with the consciousness that the Tetragrammaton is to infuse us with, what do those letters represent, and how should we approach it?
Oh man, whew, boy, there's a lot to that, but it's not. I mean, I can hit it real quick. Oh man, okay. You got the yod, you got the he, you got the wah, and you got the he. Okay, now the yod represents hand. The wah represents. The yod represents hand, and the he represents window. And and the Wa represents man, and the He represents window. So you got two windows. Okay? Now, the hand represents power, supervision, and direction. The He represents fenestra. Now, the fenestra is the medical term of window. Now, the fenestra is this little section that sits right behind. It's called the oval window, right behind the eardrum.
Window.
That is the fenestra, which is the head. Then you got the
Fenestra, like F-I-N.
F-E-N-E-S-T-R-A, fenestra. Then you have the Wa, which represents man. Now, what I was showing the women there, I say when you say man in Hebrew, you say ish. When you say woman in Hebrew, you say ish shah, man with womb. So a woman is a man. So in scripture, it's not referring to a gender. It's referring to man. So now woman is man, just like man is man. Now, only when you want to make a difference is when you say male and female. That makes the difference. Then the next one is he, which is the fenestra, the window. So now, when the Creator called Moses, he said, Moses, what is that in your hand? He was giving Moses, first Moses, he said, Moses, take off your shoes, for you are upon holy ground. I tell people, if you take a picture of Mount Sinai and Mount Horeb, these are mountains for miles and miles and miles and miles. I say now, you're not going to take off your shoes and walk up no mountain. You're not going to do that. What he was telling Moses, he said, Moses, take off your shoes, for you are upon holy ground. So now Moses was ready now to turn aside and listen to what the Creator now was getting ready to tell him, teach him, because Moses had to go in his mind and say, if you decide to do anything, Moses, it ain't going to work. You must listen to me. So Moses had to open up his mind so the Most High could tell him everything that he needed to do in order to go to the land of Egypt to free his people. Because you remember now, Moses had killed a man. He had killed a man. So he had committed a felony. Okay? So that was 40 years prior before he went into the land. So now, Moses, when he was looking at the fire, see, the fire represented the children of Israel. The fire was burning but had not been consumed. So the children of Israel came into the land with 70 souls. Okay? But when they came out, it was over 3,000 people and a few mixed people in there as well. But for the majority, it was Israel. That's a lot of people. So he told Moses, he said, Moses, go to the water, take a cup and dip into the water. So he went into the river. He said, go to the river, took the cup into the river. Okay, when he poured that cup out, he had water. So I say, you pour it back in the river, it's river. So I tell people, I show them, I say, look, this is a river, right? I said, now, I'm going to go. Now, this cup here came out of this river. So the water represented the children of Israel because that was the life-giving force of that society. Just like it was 100 years ago when Marcus Garvey was on the move. Marcus Garvey was getting ready to try to take all of us up out of here. If he would have took us up out of here, the economy would have crashed.
Collapsed.
It would have collapsed. So that means Moses now is getting ready to mess up the economics of our society.
Yep.
So he's getting ready to take the great minds of the Israelites up out of here. We can't have that. So he said, Moses, show them the two signs. If they don't believe the first one, show them the second one. Well, the first one was Moses entering into the land of Egypt. That was the monument. The second was to tell them that Pharaoh is going to change his mind. So once they saw that, they said, this got to be of God because he said this. He said this when he first came. So now, getting back to the Tetragrammaton. So now, Moses, he was given power, supervision, and direction. So now, the authority that Moses had, the supervision, he was being supervised by the Holy Spirit, the Ruach Kodosh or Kodesh. All right? So now, he was being directed by the word that was coming for the Most High. So this is what Moses was doing. Now, Aaron was his spokespiece, but the Most High was coming into Moses. Then Moses was telling it to Aaron, and then Aaron had to deliver it because he had been living there for the last 40 years, so he knew what was going on. But now remember now, when Moses first came there, he had to go to the 70 elders. The 70 elders represents the government of Israel. Okay? So now he had to go there and speak to them because now you have to remind yourself now, what you gonna tell Trump and them to free your people? So he had to go and get data. He had to go and get information from the last 400 years. And then he had to challenge them on that information. That's why he went to the government. Listen, I need documents. I need this, I need that. Because y'all been here I've been out of this place for the last 40 years, so I don't really know what's going on like that. So I need information. So they got him information. So now, when he threw his staff down, his staff, all that was parnasticate. That was the staff represented his larynx, the larynx inside the throat, his spoken voice. So when you speak, that was the serpent. So now, the magicians of Egypt had to get their men of high affairs and say, hey, so they were challenging them. We did this for your people. We did that for your people. But the truth, because they was like, hey, it's time for our people to go. We have served y'all. We have did y'all proudly. Y'all made a lot of money off us. But our God is telling us we have to leave this place. So they kept it on that. And that was the key. So now, coming on back to Yod He Wah He. So now, you take the number 10, you take Yod, okay? Yod is 10. Its numerical value is 10. You
Right.
take He, which is 5. You take Wah, which is 6. You take He, which is 5. You add it up. 10, 5, and 5 is 20. 6 is 26. So now what do you have in that? You have man that's living inside of the tabernacle. So 2 represents Beit, which is house. 6 is man. So now you live inside yourself. Your address is your domicile. That's not where you live. Wherever your body is moving, that's where you're living because you're living inside of you.
Yeah.
So now Moses had to carry the presence of the Most High with him consistently, and he had to be obedient to the Father.
Yes, sir.
This is what made him who he was. That was it, and that goes for all of us.
Truly so.
And I'm teaching, I have to make sure that I'm obedient before the Most High. I remember one time the Most High told me to do a lecture, and I was studying this other lecture, and I didn't want to do it, so I didn't do it. And when I got up there and started teaching, I started stuttering. I kept stuttering all through my lesson. I was just messing up, stuttering. When I got through, I told the people, I said, I apologize. I did something that was not right. the Creator told me in the middle of the week to teach this. And I was so confident in what I was studying, I wanted to teach this other thing. And they said, we knew something was wrong. We didn't know what it was, but we just knew something was wrong because you kept stuttering. I just couldn't get the words out. You know what I'm saying? Man, it was deep, man. I'm glad I experienced that. So we have to follow, what the Most High, the dictates of the Most High. So basically, that is it. But now, when you take the 2 and the 6 and you break it down to its lowest term, you at 8. Now, the Hebrew alphabet for 8 is Chet. Okay? The Chet. So now the Chet represents life. So the life is coming from the universe, the Creator. Sound. So the sound that the Most High is bringing to our conscious, that is the life. That's the life force. That sound, that word, that intellect. That's what that is. So that's just basic right there, to deal with that. I mean, I go a little bit more into it, but that's basically sums it up.
And that's rich. And that's why when you see what Yahushua says in verse 10 is so important. Verse 10, right? Hear and understand. Hear, right? Shema and understand. That's why Shema is the most important thing. If he's talking about the tetragrammaton, is really dealing with reverberations of energy and sound.
There you
right?
go.
You're dealing with the capacity to perceive, right? How shall they know unless someone is sent to them? And how should they, what did that say? And that's in Romans, I believe, 9. It comes from Isaiah, I know, but I know Romans 9 speaks of it as well, about the prophet. How should they hear unless someone be sent? And so that hearing is so important to perceive Yah's voice. My sheep know my voice, right? And so this is so important as relates to our calling. And so we have a lot of work to do, and we have some learning, some increased learning to undergo, because these are serious times. These are serious times.
When people are teaching, I never go in and ask questions. I just go in and sit, and then I get up and leave. Never ask questions. I don't never disturb a teacher with questions. I don't do that. I don't mess with Israel. I leave Israel alone because that's the Creator's people. And that's my people. So I don't mess with them. I leave them alone, man. I don't ask no questions. I don't never do that. I would rather come to you when everybody's gone and I say, brother, here's a book. Check this out. Get back with me in about 3 weeks and we'll talk about it. So now I develop a friend. That's what I do.
Okay.
I don't go because brothers always, man, why don't you ask some questions? Man, I can't do that. I say, brother, the Most High called that man. I said, he called that man for these people at the conscious level of where they at right now. You think I'm gonna disturb that? Is you crazy?
Right.
Man, I'm not. This ain't no ego trip.
Right.
You're not gonna get me in trouble. No, sir. I leave Israel alone, man. I don't know what the Most High is working this thing out with us first.
Indeed.
Man.
And that's the principle we dealt with the article we opened up with.
Yeah.
Everybody sees dimly into this mirror for now, but there will come a time when we will see face to face. Some of us have maybe a clearer view into the mirror. Our mirror may be more polished than others, depending on our degree of obedience that you were just speaking about. Nonetheless, we all have a view into this, and everyone can contribute to this esteemed and powerful body.
That's right.
And that's what you're saying, Imam Sharon, as well. And so everyone has a role to play, and some roles are going to have, they're going to have just the measure of faith that they need, the measure of faithfulness they need, the measure of knowledge they need to contribute to the overall commonwealth of this nation. And that's what's important. Stay in your lane, fulfill your purpose.
There you go.
Right? And this is where we will succeed. So everybody is not going to be the right arm. Everybody is not going to be the kneecap. Everybody's not going to be the left eye. We're not going to have the same roles. We're not going to have the same functions. We're not going to have the same information even. Now, there's only going to be a overall principle that we're going to be governed by. We're all going to be governed by the principles, but certain information isn't relayed to certain parts of the body. My foot doesn't receive the same information as my hand. It can't, because it doesn't function in the same capacity.
That's right.
But it's going to receive the principles that guide it and govern it so it can function with the hand. And that's where we need to focus on. And that's what I strive as a facilitator and a moreh with Beit Mashiyach to do, you know, with my brothers and sisters who are here with me and the elders who are here with me, you know. And so, you know, this is just a matter of making this body one. There's one Messiah, there's one Elohim, there's one Yah, there's one faith, right? There's one immersion, so on and so forth. So this is what we're striving to accomplish here, you know, and we want to manifest the kingdom. We strive to be as practical as possible and make these things applicable to our life so that we can transform and become Mashiyach. We are a messianic nation. We are a kingdom of priests. We are a holy set apart people.
That's it, man. That's it, brother.
Yes, sir.
That's what we was in Genesis 1:1.
Yes, sir. That was it.
That was it.
Yes, like the sun. Very much.
Oh man.
So this
well,
is
I love Genesis 1:1, man. Whew. I was supposed to meet with the dean of the theological school at Duke University. We were supposed to have lunch, so he couldn't make it. So he sent another professor. So we ate, and he said, "What is your credentials?" And I say, "Well, all I've been doing is teaching in churches." I said, one of the professors from Duke University goes to this Unitarian church, and he saw me there speak. And so he asked me, how would I like to come to Duke University? We'll pay you $800 for an hour and a half. I said, what? $800 for an hour and a half. And so I said, but other than that, he said, well,
write it down, because that's my
think about the Bible.
told me to write it down.
Yeah, he said, tell me something about the Bible. So I say, well, why would you like to know? He said, well, do this. Start at Genesis, the first chapter. I say, Genesis, the first. Now, he didn't know this is my favorite subject, you know. So I say, Genesis, the first chapter. I say, hold on, wait. I say, so what verse do you want me to respond on? He said, why don't you just go with Genesis 1:1? I say, oh, man. I say, well, how long are we going to be here? He said, how long would it take you? I said, well, to do it justice, it's going to take about an hour and a half. But I can do it in about 10, 15 minutes. He said, okay, go ahead. And then I began to break that thing down. And he said, we're bringing you to Duke University. That was it. The rest was history. It was history. When I go up in the churches, man, I tell the pastors, I say, listen, I will never disrespect your people because these are your parishioners. I said, I'm not here to outdo you. I can't do that. I said, now, he said, no, okay, I see your understanding with Yeshua. He said, now, okay. I said, okay, this is what I'm going to talk on. I'm going to talk on this, and I'm going to talk on that. I'm not going to talk about this. He said, okay, go ahead. I said, I told you, I'm not going to disrespect your people. I'm not going to do that. You know, because I'd rather teach him, and then he can teach his people. You see? That's how I do it, because they always want to ask me, who was Jesus? I said, was he the Son of God? I say, absolutely. They say, then was he the only begotten Son of God? I said, well, You want me to rub your ego, or you want me to go in antiquity? So now I gave him something to think about. I can rub your ego, or I can take you into the world of antiquity. So now he have to decide on that. I go and rub your ego. You want me to rub your ego?
Right.
So I leave it just like that, man. I tell you, man, this has been good, man. I enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hallelujah.
I enjoyed all of y'all, man. Y'all, hey, y'all say some good stuff. I mean, your people even say some good, man, they say some good stuff, man. Y'all
Very
got
wise.
good teaching.
Yes. Praise Yah. We have some very
Yes.
beautiful and anointed minds in here, and I'm thankful for our intimate fellowship, because we've grown. I mean, we've grown, and we have cracked, some good codes that this scriptures contain, and y'all shown us some things, definitely. And we wrestle. We have a WhatsApp room, Imam Trusilla. Please feel free to share it with Elder Melchizedek as well. So we're going to continue our journey, man, until kingdom come, and prayerfully we're in it when it does come.
Okay.
Yes, that's the thing. That's the thing, man. Making it through this.
Yes, sir. And we're just working to bring it forth. I have a, and this is to the room as well, and it's going to be broadcast on Zoom, but we're going to do a live presentation in Kansas. I'm in Kansas City, Missouri.
I was just getting ready to ask you where you at.
Yes, sir. I'm in Kansas City,
You
Missouri.
in Kansas, man. Man, you
Missouri.
in Kansas?
Missouri.
Kansas, Missouri? Man, I'm gonna tell you, bro. Kansas is deep.
Kansas is deep. Yeah,
Kansas
it's
is
right
deep.
there. Kansas, Missouri is very deep. It is. There's a lot of history.
Man, Kansas has a lot to do with the Wizard of Oz.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's going back to
There's Kansas City, Missouri, and Kansas City, Kansas. We're in Kansas City, Missouri. Thank you.
Reed, James A. Reed with the Federal Reserve Act. He
That's
had a
it.
lot to deal with it. Yes, indeed. I'm familiar with it.
Okay.
That changed everything. That changed the whole face of reality for the United States.
And it started right there in Kansas.
That's why there's two central banks, or in Missouri at least. Missouri has two central banks. No other state has two Federal Reserve branches in it, but Missouri.
Yep.
There's a Missouri, Kansas City branch on the west, St. Louis branch in the east. No other state in the union has two Federal Reserve branches in it.
Wow. Whew. Well, I love to teach on that. Man, the Wizard of Oz.
There you go. They've hit the goal, brother. They've taken it. That's symbolic of so many ways as well. That Frank Baum book is powerful. People don't even really get that Frank Baum book.
Yes, sir.
Let's wrap this up.
Okay.
Because what we're dealing with, we're dealing with being planted in this kingdom, right? Every plant which my heavenly Father has not planted shall be uprooted. That is powerful, and it's actually frightening, but there's something that we can do, because we know of this parable of the field and the sower and the seed, right? We know of that parable. And so the soil is what is determined by that seed, but yet, yes, Yah does plant it, of course, but we have to make sure that we're cultivating this soil that Yah has put this seed in. Everyone here has the seed is in them, but what is your soil like? Right? What is your soil like? And so this is where we have to ensure that we're cultivating our lives. We're setting apart our lives, and we're staying in the covering. I'm gonna go back to that, to the kipperet, the covering that Yah provides for us in His presence. And we cannot make it through this world without Yah's presence. We cannot do any. That's like Yahushua says, I am the vine, you are the branches. You can do nothing except that you are in me. So these are the things that we have to understand. This is how we bear fruit. And that fruit is from the tree. We are the tree of life when we really understand it. Now that's where it really gets profound.
All right
We are
now.
those trees of life. That's where it gets truly
You dropping
profound.
the pearls.
Yes, sir. That's the profundity of it all. But we've lost touch with that.
Yes,
And really
sir.
what Adam, what that nation was exiled from was from itself. They were exiled from themselves.
Mm-hmm.
We lost touch with who we are in Yah.
That's right.
So when we're cast out of ourselves, you know what I'm saying? Like you have no more purpose. And so this is what we're getting back to. Wow, hallelujah.
Yes,
so,
sir.
you know, we have a great undertaking to go. And as we're approaching Shavuot, I do believe today is the 15th day of the Omer. We are getting, you know, closer and closer to the revelation of Torah and the fulfillment of the new covenant.
5 more Sabbaths to go.
Yes, sir. 5 more Shabbatot. And so we're going to get to that prayerfully, and we're going to, you know, experience this renewal, this rebirth, this resurrection, if you will, of this kingdom, because we have to start putting things in order to get in place and position for everything to unfold for Yah's sake. And we have to become undefiled. We have to be made what's known in Hebrew as is it tuma to slika? It's the word for perfect. It's tamim. We have to be tam. Yep. We have to become perfect, and that perfect means unblemished. We have to be ritually clean and set apart and mature in the spirit and in truth. And so, help us, Abiyah. That's our prayer. For us to be, you know, in our master, so that we are able to fulfill that which he has placed before us. So, man, Todah for coming, Elder Melchizedek. Indeed, Todah to you all family as well for being here and your insights and your information, your questions.
Man, I enjoyed all of y'all. I mean, I could, it just felt so good. Praise I didn't know it was going to go like this.
Hallelujah.
I did not know it was going to go like this, man. Because normally I just lay back. I normally just lay back. But man, I say, man, something would just, say something. And I'm glad you allowed me to do that.
You rang my some points here for real. Like I'm gonna listen, but I'm a student. I'm still a Talmud myself. I'm still a student.
Yeah, Talmudim.
Yes, sir.
We all are.
Yes, sir. So, you know, I don't want to sit here and act like I got it all, because I don't. You know, when I hear wisdom, I will yield to wisdom. Undeniably.
Likewise. Likewise.
I appreciate you, Elder, indeed. Imatu Silla Todah for inviting the elder.
Is she there? Is she there?
Yeah, I just got back on. Hi.
Oh, Priscilla, you missed so much.
Well,
it's recorded. It's recorded.
I missed some, but I heard some. I heard enough.
And it's recorded, and I placed the recordings in our WhatsApp group. So Imad Tasil, if you could invite him to the WhatsApp group, give him the link for that. I'll definitely post the class today in WhatsApp so that everybody has access to them. I have a blog as well that has all the different discussions and conversations that we've had, and some other things that are also on there as well.
Let me tell you how I met Tassila.
Okay.
Tassila has an older sister. Now, me and her sister been collaborating for a couple years. I'm doing a lecture in 2011. All right. Tassila is sitting in the front row. Now I'm lecturing, and the Most High told me that woman there is going to become your friend. And I heard that. And I kind of stumbled a little bit just in my mind, because I'm trying to focus on everybody looking at me with a full house. And everybody looking at me, and I'm like, this woman right here, you know. And so I'm trying to, you know, I'm looking at her, but I'm trying to, you know, walk and make suggestions. You know how the guys be doing comedy. Because I know what I say, that woman, man, I'm thinking in my brain, right? So I had to play it off. Then I got back in my focus, And anyway, after about 2 years of knowing her, somebody say, "Oh, Malika said it. Kimya?" I said, "Yeah, the sister up in New York. That's Priscilla's sister." I said, "What?" They said, "That's Priscilla's sister." I said, "You got to be, come on." I said, "I got to call her right now." I said, "Priscilla, you got a sister living in New York?" "Uh-huh." "Is her name Kimya?" "Yeah, that's my older sister." I said, "This is crazy. This is crazy." Those are my girls there.
Wow.
I tell you, that was crazy. And I wasn't even living here in Orlando at the time. I was coming in speaking. Yes, I'm down here in Orlando, Florida. Yeah, I'm in Orlando.
Do you know Josiah Zebulon, Moray's Josiah Zebulon?
Josiah Zebulon. I don't think I do, but I heard that name before.
He's in Orlando, I believe.
He's a teacher?
Yes, sir.
Priscilla, you know him?
No, I don't.
Josiah, that name is familiar. Yeah, that name is familiar. Okay. Is he teaching here now? Because I'll go to his place.
I do believe so.
Oh, okay. You have his number?
I'm Facebook friends with him. I have his number.
Oh, okay, Facebook friends. Okay.
Well, let's do this. Are there any thoughts, any comments, any questions before we close out with the Aleinu prayer? Repose for Shabbat. Anybody have anything, any closing thoughts?
I had one thought that came to my mind, and it's a short one, but
yes, ma'am.
After you read about Azazel, then I began to think about too, and we can look at that later, on today or tomorrow or something, that now in chapter 18,
Leviticus?
Leviticus 18, now Yah is telling Israel to not do these things that are really, I was thinking about, it's attributed to Azazel.
Yes. My goodness. Yes. Right.
And I was even thinking, I know you want to close, but I was even thinking about today about actually makeup, makeup, clothing, all of that.
Right.
How it has really changed to the point, it's to this point, to this place that right. You described when you read about Azazel.
Yes. Oh my goodness! Now that you say that, 100%.
And then these behaviors, I remember being young, and I would think, "Wow, this is horrible." And then now, you're seeing that on TV. The Jerry Springer, all of that.
Right. With pride.
Well, yes. So I just wanted to, because we didn't get to go that far, but I just wanted to share that, what I saw there.
That's powerful, Ima. And that is so important, because again, what the Torah is for is to rectify the errors and the evil inclinations of human nature. It's to correct it, right? This is corrective measures, lawfully disposed measures to correct human behavior.
That's spiritual language.
Recently, that was saying the Torah is not from heaven. It's not divinely inspired. And I argue the point, because when you look at the scriptures, they scientifically are written with foresight. Keep in mind, Moshe was giving prognoses to things in an age that even today, the remedies that Yah showed him aren't even applied today. That if we were to apply the remedies and the prognoses that Moshe gave for all types of conditions, not just health, but social maladies as well, that if we were to practice them, they would result in wholeness. They would result in well-being. It's scientifically proven if you were to just follow the instructions of Torah in a comprehensive sense, because there's what, 36, 37 categories that Torah covers in human activity. And so when we understand that and how these prohibitions here, these things that we're prohibited from doing, they make society that much more healthy. They keep the social fabric of society that much more strong. Because if you got these relations, these illicit relations taking place, well, you're going to have so many broken people. You're
Well,
going to have stained nature.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm done. Go
I
ahead.
just got excited, but you see the manifestation of it. And now, man, and if people have, it's the murder, it's the with the root of it is with almost these behaviors.
Anger and everything.
Just the unrest, and that is the root of it to me, is the dysfunctional things that we all probably have to console. I find, my husband and I find ourselves constantly young people that are, and you are the result of this, some of this now. That they've grown up and finding out, like some adults finding out that this was the circumstance of how I'm here. So I'm just saying that to agree that this just deteriorates us as a people.
But the way to get back to our healing and our wholeness is through this path.
Yes.
That's why Yahushua says, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. But he was only speaking of that in the sense that he had embodied the principles of Torah. He became the word himself. And this is all of our goal. This is all of our undertaking that we're to experience. We're to become that vibration and that sound. We're to become that reflection of the image and likeness that Yah has called us to be. He's called us to be. That's why, man, my next presentation after this, I'm gonna have to hit you up for this, Elder Melchizedek. My next presentation after this, the kingdom of heaven is at hand, is called the true words of Elohim.
Yes, sir.
True words of Elohim. And it's just to summarize it up, it's about us. We are the true words of Elohim. And that's all we need to know.
That's it.
God's words do not return to him void. When he sends it out, it comes back and fulfills that which he sent it out to do. So when you read in Revelation 19, when it talks about blessed are those who are called to the wedding feast of the Lamb, for these are the true words of Elohim, right? Well, those who are called to the wedding feast are the true words of Elohim. Those are these, and these are those. Brother Kim, yes, sir.
Yeah, I was just one of the things that I was going to comment on this part right here. I ran across this article.
Okay.
I remember the name of it. I forgot the name of this group, but there's a group that's a Texas-based group and also out of Canada who are trying to change the incest laws, and that will make it legal for you to marry your stepsister or your stepbrother. And not only that, because in the state of Texas, it's legal for you to marry your third cousin, but they're trying to eliminate the incest laws all the way together, right? And it's now, and I remember, I can't remember what the name of that group was, but the decadence of this country, it just doesn't stop. You understand what I'm saying? And the wickedness of the place. But one thing that kind of struck me as odd, and I remember, I don't know if you remember this one story here in Kansas City, Missouri. where there was a young man who ended up murdering his grandmother. But actually, he was in love with his grandmother, and went in and did some, you know, I hate using the word, raped his grandmother and murdered her. You know, that lust and stuff like that. And he attributed it to when he was being raised, he was always seeing his grandmother getting out of the shower with no clothes on and things like that. And that type of scene, that kind of that lust kind of was kindled inside of him until he just, you know, that demon just took over him and he did something very, very despicable and evil. So this is, and when you were talking about those type of laws and how these things are not just uncovering your mother and your grandmother and your sister's nakedness, you know, you don't look upon those. You know, I never even hugged my sister. I couldn't, you know, they used to beat me up all the time, so that's why I didn't want to be around them. But anyway, yeah, they did. I got 8 sisters. I'm the only boy, so
I caught them hands. I'm good.
Yeah, especially my sister Nisi. Boy, look, she put it on me. But anyway, the one thing that when you were talking about the scapegoat, right? And I know this place is called, and I'm gonna let you go, spiritual Sodom and Gomorrah, right? In spiritual Egypt. Even though the goat wandered, the goat had to come and rest somewhere. And you remember when you said that it was released back to this, how you say his name?
Azazel.
Azazel. The goat was, the sins were laid on him and the goat was released back to him. And I wonder, this is just me, because sometimes my mind goes there. I wonder if those sins, did that goat make his way to America and just sit for a while? I was just thinking about that. You know,
what you gotta understand, it's not so much the goat. The goat is not the issue.
I know, but I'm talking about like spiritually. You know what I'm saying?
I get it. I 100% get it. But what I'm saying is, you're dealing with nations that call on the demons. You're dealing with nations that are engaging and entertaining and summoning the energies of these demonic forces.
I got it.
So the goat is not the issue. Right. It's that which the goat is sent to, because now the people are harnessing this dark and demonic energy.
Wow, I got you.
That's the issue, right?
That's it.
So I don't know, like I haven't watched any of these movies, but like Insidious, they got all kinds of movies. Even the movie Fallen with Denzel Washington. My family and I were talking about this today. They are literally revealing the names of these energies.
Yep.
Series, right? And what they're doing, and it's not really understood, Hollywood, which is the wood that they use for magicians' wands, for sorcerers' wands, one of the types of woods, the literal tree holly, was used to create wood wands that would manipulate the minds of the people who would be in the field of view of that particular sorcerer. Wow. So this is what Hollywood is doing. They're casting spells on people. They're broadcasting spells. They're broadcasting. They're casting a wide and large spell on the people through Hollywood, through the media, right? Which is one of the names of the Persians, interestingly, who were magicians as well.
That's right.
Media, the Medea Persians, right? They were magicians. That's where the Magi come from.
And who's doing this? The Jewish people.
Exactly. The Ashkenazim. Now that, you know, now let me say this though. Let me clarify something. There are righteous Torah observant Ashkenazim, right? Mm-hmm. But then you have atheists. You have satanic Gomerites. These are people from Gomer. These are Gomerites, right? These are Yethan, Yefethites. These are from Yefet. These are the Goy, the Gentiles. Okay, some of Noah's sons, right? When you're dealing with Ashkenaz, so interesting what's going on in Ukraine. The attention's being brought to that country for a specific reason right now, right? But what is the root? What is that country about? What is so significant of Ukraine and Kiev in particular, historically speaking? Who comes from that area? Who comes from that area?
The Jewish people, the Khazars.
Exactly. So there's attention brought there for a reason.
Yes, sir.
And we just have to be able to discern it all and to put it together prophetically.
sir. Yes, sir. That's it.
Ooh, it's so much. It's so much. It
Oh,
is so
man,
much.
this was beautiful. I needed this.
And Yah is good. Yah is good. We just have to ascend to his goodness and become as Yah is, you know. That's the challenge that we all face, you know, consistently. I love that you use that word because that's my challenge. That's my mandate right now is to be consistent. And that's the challenge that most of us all face. So Yah have mercy on us all. Let's go ahead and get into a spirit of prayer. We're going to close out with the Aleinu and the Kaddish, and then we'll go ahead and say our farewells. And we also have prayer on Wednesday nights. We do from the Siddur. We do the Ma'ariv prayer, weekly Ma'ariv. We do a little language as well. And so you're more than welcome to fellowship with us, Elder Melchizedek. How do you say your name?
Malkasadik. I'm saying it the
Melchizedek.
way we would say it in Amharic. It's not exactly the Hebrew, but it's easier
Amharic.
to pronounce. Malkasadik.
And is it Mengetsu?
Yes, Mengestu. Yeah.
Selah. Okay. Amen. Family, much love always. Anybody have any last thoughts before we go ahead and close out with the Aleinu and the Kaddish?
I just thank you for the bread today. I thank you for the bread. Appreciate it.
Hallelujah. All right. In the spirit of prayer, hallelujah. Aleinu leshabeach le'adon hakol la'tek gedula la'yatzir breshit shelo asanu kegoy haratzot velo samanu b'mispachot hadamah shalo sam hachenu chahem v'gor aleinu kakol hamonam ve'anachnu korim u'mistachoim u'modim lifnei melech melki hamalakim hakadosh baruch hu Hu note shemayim ve'yasoretz u'meshov yakra'o b'shamayim mima'al shechinat ozo b'gobohai moromim hu Eloheinu einod met malkeinu efes zolato achatuv b'torato v'yadata hayom v'hashovota el v'vacha ki yahu ha'elohim b'shamayim mima'al ba'al ha'aretz metachat einod King Nachve Lacha, Ya Eloheinu, Laraot Maharaba Teferet Uzacha, Bir Golulim, Men Haaretz V'Halalim, Kerod Yechratun, V'Tachini Alam, B'Melkut Shaddai, V'Kol B'ni Basar Yechra'u B'Shemecha, Lehaponot Eliki Koreshi Aretz, Yikiru V'Yodeu, Kol Yeshve, Tabah Ki Lecha, Tikara, Kol Barek, Tisha Ba, Kol Hashon, Lefanecha ya Eloheinu, Yekera'u v'yifolu, v'lechavot shemka yakayatanu, v'yikabalu cholam et ol malchuteka, v'timlok elehem mahra le'olam vayed, ki hamelchut shelcha hi, u'le'olemi et timlok v'kavod, kakatuv b'toratecha, ya yemlok le'olam vayed, v'ne'emar, v'chaya Yahuwah le'melech al kol ha'aretz, Ayom hahu, bayom hahu, yihye Yahuwah echad, u'shemo echad. So we rise to our duty to praise the master of all, to acclaim the creator. El made our lot unlike that of other people, assigning to us a unique destiny. We bend the knee and bow, acknowledging the supreme sovereign, the set apart one, exalted, who spread out the heavens and laid the foundations of the earth, whose esteemed abode is in the highest heavens, whose mighty dominion is in the loftiest heights. This is our El, there is no other. In truth, El alone is our ruler, as it is written in the Torah, know this day and take it to heart that Yah is Elohim in heaven above and on earth below. There is no other. And so we hope in you, Yah Eloheinu, soon to see your splendor, that you will sweep idolatry away so that all false Elohim will be utterly destroyed, and that you will perfect the world by your sovereignty so that all humanity will invoke your name, and all the earth's wicked will return to you repentant. Then all who live will know that to you every knee must bend, every tongue pledge loyalty. To you, Yah, may all bow and worship. May they give honor to your esteem. May everyone accept your dominion. Reign over all soon and for all time. Sovereignty is yours in esteem now and forever. Thus it is written in your Torah, Yah reigns forever and ever. Such is the prophetic assurance. Yah shall be acknowledged ruler of all the earth. On that day shall Yah be one, and his name one. Yitkadal vayikadesh me rabba amen. V'amadi v'rakerote v'yimelech malchute. V'chayechunu v'yamichunu v'chayeda kol beit Israel. Bagalav izman kari v'meru. Amen. Yehesh me rabba me vorak le'olam ul me amaya. Yitbarak v'yistabach v'yitma'ah v'yitroman v'yitnaseh. Yihadav v'yitalei v'yithalal shemei nekudashah berichu. Elamin kol barachata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechmata damiran v'ama v'imiru amen. Yehesh lamar rabba me shamaya l'chaim aleinu v'yakol Israel v'imiru amen. Say shalom b'imromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'yakol Israel v'imiru amen. Yevarechecha Yahuwah v'yishmarecha. Ya'eh Yahuwah panav alecha v'yuhunecha. Yisayahu panav alecha v'yisim lecha. Shalom. May Yah bless you and keep you. May Yah cause his countenance to shine upon you, be kind unto you. May Yah lift up his face unto you and give you peace. In Mashiyach Yahushua's name we pray. Hallelujah and amen. Shavua Tov Mishpachah. Excellent class today. Todah Rabbah for everyone being here.
Hallelujah.
Yes, indeed. Ima Sharon, always beautiful seeing and hearing you. Ima Leoraya, Todah Rabbah, always beautiful hearing you as well. A quote to Silla, Todah Rabbah, for your presence and inviting Elder Melchizedek, Todah Rabbah to you as well, Elder. And of course, Aki, Kim, much love always, and Todah Rabbah for everything that you provided with us today as well.
I appreciate that. Hey, listen, I learned a lot today. I really did. That busted my head though. That going to and fro, up and down, to and fro. That right there, boy, went to my dome. You know what I mean? I just, yeah. You know, oh, I love. Hey, listen, I love the Most High for His revelation. You know, it's just. And then when the brother was talking about the gray matter of the brain, you know, this mystery. You know that one scripture, and I know we gotta go. But it talked about the mysteries.
Right.
You know what I mean? Those mysteries.
Yes, sir.
It's so deep.
That's rich. Very rich.
Yeah, it's so deep, you know.
Amen. So we will be back together on Wednesday, but next Rishon, next Yom Rishon, next first day or Sunday, will be the presentation. It's going to be from 1 to 4. We'll probably start about 1:32 at the latest. But I'm gonna have it on this particular link on Zoom, so you all can tune in because I'll broadcast it there. I'll record it though, of course, as well, so you all can actually catch it and everything as well.
Are you gonna put it in the WhatsApp?
After it's recorded, yeah. It'll be on my blog and I'll put it on WhatsApp.
I'm talking about the Shabbat class today.
Oh, yeah. When it gets downloaded, I'll put it on the blog and then I'll post it. It'll be on YouTube as well, but I'm gonna put it from YouTube on my blog and then I'll put it in there, but you can access it on YouTube.
Okay. Okay. And what's our next high holy day? Oh, our holy day.
Shavuot. We got 35 days left. Shavuot, Pentecost.
Pentecost, yeah.
Yeah, so this concludes the spring. So the spring will be wrapped up with this one here.
Yeah.
So there's really technically considered, although Bikurim, first fruits is in the Shabbat, there's 4 spring feast days. And then there's 4, really 5. So fall you have Teruah, Yom Kippur, first day Sukkot, last day Sukkot, and then you have Shemini Atzeret, the 8th day.
The 8th day. Okay, because I was trying to figure out which one of these, can I work on them days or do I need to take off?
Well, fortunately this year Shavuot is on first day, so I don't know if you work on Sunday in the first place.
It don't matter to me. No, I don't work on Sunday. No.
So Shavuot is on the first day. I do think that the Feast of Trumpets is on a weekday, and I think also Yom Kippur is on a weekday, and I do believe that Sukkot is also on weekdays. I'll have to check the calendar again though, but
Okay.
yeah.
So that way I can give some good enough time.
I mean, I gave you the letter. You know, if you need me to type it up again, I can type it up again and get it to you.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I don't know if it's still in my email. You might have to do some revising.
Yeah. Just let me know. I can update it.
Okay. Give you the information.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. We'll do.
I think Sister L'Oreal was saying something, but she muted.
Was saying everybody be blessed.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
Yes, indeed.
Have a good week. Be safe.
You did a real good on the reading Wednesday. I was like, oh, look at her go.
Yes, indeed.
I was sweating. I'm telling you. That's all I could say now. I'm gonna try to practice more, but it's been a long time. So
You with family too, you my so you know.
I'm thankful. I'm really thankful.
Yes, indeed.
I'm still working on the letter, so I'm a little slow.
Yeah, we'll get
Maury, do you think that brother you know, I started doing the transliterated, so like it's in English, but you know, it spells out the Hebrew, even though I could not read any Hebrew or nothing. So you can get it where it's transliterated, it's in English letters, so to speak.
Right. But it's spelled out in the.
Do you think that would be good?
That can help. That can help. I mean, it'll help with the pronunciation. It won't help with, you know, reading Hebrew. It'll help you to pronounce the words.
Right.
Right. You'll get used to pronouncing the words. That's what I want to say. And then, I mean, later on, you're still going to have to, just like you got to throw it out. And I think it's like this with everything with this. You got to throw it out and start over again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You'll get it.
Yeah, I ain't gonna give up now.
I'm waiting for you to be reading something too, brother. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Look, he was like, oh, that's Elohim. That's Elohim.
Blowing my mind, man. You know what I mean? Yeah. No doubt. Yeah. I can't wait though. I'm gonna keep practicing.
That's right. Keep practicing, brother. It takes time.
It does. It took me years. I had to go see the language in motion. That's why I try follow along when I'm praying and when I'm doing the blessings, because what you're doing is you're seeing how the letters come together. Like that helped me so much. And I try to make sure that when I pray, when I read in the Hebrew, I'm going with over each word. So that way you can see how the letters compose the words and how to pronounce it. That helped me so much, because when I was in Knesset in synagogue, I would just follow along.
Yeah.
You know, I just listen to him pray, and I'm just, okay, and then it just helped my fluency in terms of reading.
Wow.
That much more, but the comprehension is a whole different thing. Comprehending what you're reading.
That's totally knowing what the words are.
Yeah, that's an entirely different thing. That's the
it's just a process, a process. That's all.
It is 100%.
So much, you know. It's just so. But that's the one thing I just love about the word. You know, is when you think you got it nailed down, when you think you got
there you go. You don't.
Turn right on you. You know what I mean?
It's like back to kindergarten.
Yeah. Right.
Why I gotta go back to kindergarten again?
I was like, you gotta go back to your white belt. Let me get my white belt back over.
ABCs with the drawing and stuff. Wow. Well, you all be blessed.
Same, Iman.
All right, Layla Tov, everyone.
Layla Tov.
All right.
Shalom.
Shalom.